Of course, healing during PK was against the rules, but who told them to bully a newbie? Pecking Bird, fuming with nowhere to vent his anger, couldn't stand watching the two embrace intimately. Ooh. Emily Willow looked like she was enjoying the drama. In fact, she was also a bit of a gossip. William Knight's explanation was crystal clear, demonstrating his understanding of boss mechanics. Pecking Bird was naturally left speechless. Pecking Bird, or rather, the entire number 1 Power Guild, had their hearts set on William Knight marrying Isabella. They never imagined he'd marry someone who didn't even know how to PvP. Clearly, his wife's incredible gear was all thanks to him. This sparked an undeniable sense of envy and injustice. How could a newbie instantly become a high-level player? Just how? This was on everyone's mind, but they were too intimidated by the great William Knight to say it aloud. Someone dared to voice the unspoken thought, casting a chill over the atmosphere. Emily Willow felt like the words had been ripped from her mouth. This guy, what a way with words. And so, Emily Willow was swept onto William Knight's mount, galloping across the desert. Looking at the map, they were headed towards the desert oasis. Chapter 9, Inside the flower-adorned cave. Emily Willow wondered where this guy was taking her. She had no idea where the desert oasis even was. She decided to ask. Private chat, Emily Willow, excuse me, where are we going? Private chat, William Knight, to consummate our marriage. Emily Willow rolled her eyes. This guy really liked to joke around, he seemed down to earth. She decided to play along, showing she could take a joke too. Private chat, Emily Willow, is there a bridal chamber? Private chat, William Knight, we'll consummate our marriage on the mount. I'm taking you somewhere with a nice view. What? Consummate their marriage on a mount? Emily Willow was taken aback. Glancing at the white, winged steed they were riding, some rather improper images flashed through her mind. Okay, Emily Willow, that's enough. Private chat, Emily Willow, does this game have consummation cutscenes? Emily Willow felt like she was talking nonsense. What kind of game would have something that perverse? Private chat, William Knight, do you want it to? Emily Willow was speechless. It wasn't about wanting it, it was pure curiosity. If such a scene existed, how inappropriate would that be? She realized how innocent she used to be. Ever since meeting Ethan Carter, her thoughts had been led astray by the man she considered her mentor. Private chat, William Knight, unfortunately, this is a necessary balance in the game. Emily Willow felt that Lord William Knight's way of speaking was very similar to Ethan Carter's. Similar in the way they coerced people, slowly finishing one sentence and then smiling before continuing with another, just like when someone wants to slap you, they'll first smile and caress your cheek a bit, then fiercely slap you. However, in essence, they were different. This Lord William Knight seemed to be a demon. Private chat, Emily Willow, Little Yun Yun. Private chat, William Knight, you should correct your way of addressing me. You have 3 choices, 1, call me hubby, 2, call me husband, 3, call me my lord. Private chat, Emily Willow, I'm thinking of calling you crazy. Therefore, Lord William Knight got angry. He stopped, and the two stood in the desert. Monsters actively attacked the players nearby, and the monsters chasing behind immediately surrounded them, starting to attack the two of them. The two sat on their mounts, the monsters attacking them one after another, but their equipment was too high grade, they only lost a drop of health. Emily Willow was dumbfounded. Although there were so many monsters, their health points were all over 10,000. The monsters wouldn't be able to kill them even after hitting them for half a day. And she wouldn't attack either, killing one would only result in another spawning, how long would they have to fight? This lord was ruthless enough, to coerce someone, he would do this until Emily Willow compromised. But how could she say such a thing? Calling a demon hubby really made her cringe. Emily Willow thus began to fret. Private chat, Emily Willow, Little Yun Yun, I'm your older sister. Half a day passed without a reply. He remained motionless, watching the monsters attack as if watching a comedy. Emily Willow held back, continuing to speak gently. Private chat, Emily Willow, want me to introduce you to some hot guys? I know a lot of hot guys. Private chat, William Knight, is that so? Emily Willow felt that. Lord William Knight seemed interested, excited. Private chat, Emily Willow, tell me, what kind do you like? Private chat, William Knight, are there any you like among them? Private chat, Emily Willow, my heart, at present, is still untainted. Private chat, William Knight, that's very good. Then, inexplicably, William Knight suddenly used an AoE attack. A golden dragon appeared, flying through, golden light scattering everywhere. In an instant, the surrounding monsters all fell, the killing speed was truly unbelievably fast. Emily Willow was still astonished by the awesomeness of this skill when she was stolen a kiss by Lord William Knight. The two were once again embracing, openly kissing. Consider it a victory celebration. Emily Willow was thus stunned. Was Lord William Knight so lonely that he liked kissing so much? And so they continued towards the desert oasis. Private chat, Emily Willow, that skill was really awesome, the AoE was so good. Private chat, William Knight, you have won too, I socketed a skill gem onto the weapon I gave you, that skill is even more powerful. Emily Willow immediately checked her own stats, looking at her weapon. The stats of that magic weapon were truly, enough to make Emily Willow dizzy and dazed. At the time, she only looked at the refinement, feeling that the additions were already sky-high. Now, looking at the gem's stats, it had almost filled all the stat slots, plus the overturn mountains and seas skill. The mountain splitter card skill requires max-level metalworking, and a week of practice. Plus, the materials are really complex, so it's basically the highest level inscription skill. Emily Willow checked out God William Knight's weapon again, and sure enough, he'd inscribed it with Mountain Splitter 2. His weapon was also fully stacked with attributes. This god's weapon refinement is truly terrifying to behold. Private chat, Emily Willow, how can you even craft equipment like that? Private chat, William Knight, good mood. Emily Willow's face was covered in black lines. What did being in a good mood have to do with crafting equipment? As Emily Willow chuckled, the two passed by the Temple of Miracles, and things took a turn. A bunch of high-level players suddenly rushed out of the temple, followed by a huge, fanged, black-faced, ferocious-looking general boss. Before Emily Willow could react to what the heck was going on, the players all ran towards her and William Knight, then very systematically hid behind them, motionless, as if waiting for God William Knight to deal with the boss. The massive general boss charged up to God William Knight, stood still, then swung the giant blade on his shoulder at William Knight. Emily Willow thought, with such a huge blade, and them both on horseback, there was no way they could block that hit. It was gonna be a disaster. But God William Knight's controls were slick. His horse suddenly flew towards the general boss, and the Bound by Fate icon on Emily Willow's screen abruptly vanished. Emily Willow fell from the sky like a weightless dried flower, drifting. Emily Willow planned to wait until she hit the ground, then join the ranks of the high-level players for protection. William Knight used his ultimate sword skill, Dragon's Regret, mid-air. 8 dragon heads appeared from all directions, attacking the boss's vital points. The boss's health bar plummeted, and then he unceremoniously collapsed. The moment the general boss fell, a notification popped up on Emily Willow's screen. Do you want to be bound by fate with William Knight? Emily Willow clicked agree, and then something bizarre happened. She was falling, but it was like she was pulled upwards, flying straight into William Knight's arms. Before she could take a breath, William Knight, still airborne, unfurled large black wings, hovered, and, holding Emily Willow, dipped down and kissed her. Because intimate couple actions in the game were kisses, Emily Willow's character embraced his neck, returning the kiss. Then they slowly descended. Emily Willow stared at the screen, both amused and flustered by the breathtaking kiss. God, William Knight was sure lonely, liking kisses so much. As they landed, God William Knight's black wings retracted. They sat on their horses, continued their intimacy on horseback, then, while the other players gawked, rode off in triumph. Private chat, William Knight, we're consummating our marriage. Emily Willow almost fell out of her chair. That was consummating their marriage? Private chat, Emily Willow, just like that? Private chat, William Knight, did you want a more graphic consummation? Emily Willow shut up immediately. Around people with such a killer aura, like little Yun Yun, it was best to avoid teasing. She feared that any playful jab would reveal her less than stellar side, which wouldn't do in the game. She needed to maintain a good image. So, she played the innocent. Private chat, Emily Willow, little Yun Yun, what are you talking about? I don't understand. Private chat, William Knight, you'll find out sooner or later. Emily Willow thought, I understand perfectly well. The desert oasis was a splash of green inlaid in the sand. They rode to the base of a waterfall, and, even more bizarrely, they could enter it. The real kicker. Inside, the men were stripped bare, and the women, no matter how many layers they wore, were left with only a strip of cloth covering their chests. It was quite the dissonant scene. Say, William Knight, it's a game bug. If your character jumps from the air into the waterfall, their clothes disappear. So that was just the foreplay. This is the main event. William Knight sat down, the water rising to his stomach. Emily Willow sat too, the water lapping just below her collarbone, above her sternum. The image of the two was quite suggestive. Emily Willow accidentally clicked her mouse, her character moved, and she tried to make her sit again. The result was disastrously awkward. She landed squarely on top of William Knight, creating an incredibly compromising scene, woman on top, man on bottom, in a riding position. Say, William Knight, you're quite forward. Emily Willow scrambled to her feet, trying to escape the waterfall, but no matter how she jumped, she couldn't clear the water's surface. Say, William Knight, told you, it's a bug. You can't go back the way you came. Say, Emily Willow, so when can we get out? Say, William Knight, when the boss spawns. Boss? Emily Willow's expression was strange. Weren't they here for a wedding night? Why a boss fight? William Knight seemed to read her mind. He stood, walking out of the waterfall, his military uniform reappearing, his posture heroic and imposing. Say, William Knight, after the wedding night, naturally, comes the baby. We wait for the boss, the celestial goddess Tian Xian, to give us the baby-making quest. She'll come to the Moon Spring waterfall to bathe. Emily Willow couldn't help but feel embarrassed. This boss was certainly bold. Not for children's eyes. Sure enough, a moment later, a beautiful woman in ancient court dress appeared on the riverbank. She paced back and forth, but didn't enter the water. Emily Willow realized that if the goddess bathed in the waterfall, they wouldn't be able to get the quest. William Knight led her out of the waterfall and clicked on the celestial goddess Tian Xian. A notification popped up, your love with your partner is deep. Do you want to accept the heartfelt quest and prepare to have a child, building a family of 3? Emily Willow clicked agree. A system message appeared in the world chat. System, congratulations to players William Knight and Emily Willow for meeting the celestial goddess Tian Xian and accepting the childbearing quest. We eagerly await the arrival of their little one. Will it be a boy or a girl? Chapter 10, Damned Dog stays away from women. As the system announcement dropped, the world, initially silent, stirred. Within the game existed a special communication channel called 1000-mile voice transmission, its text a striking gold. Using this channel required a 1000-mile voice transmission tool, far more expensive than the world speaker. The world speaker cost a single gold, while the 1,000-mile voice transmission tool was a king's ransom. But it was worth it. Player messages remained on the channel for a full 5 minutes, displayed equally and not pushed off by newer messages. Thus, the 1,000-mile voice transmission channel allowed someone in the First Power Guild to pinpoint William Knight's location. Pecking Bird, William Knight, get out. Pecking Bird was quite the influencer. Her call to arms guaranteed chaos. Even the costly 1,000-mile voice transmission channel saw unprecedented activity. Wiggly Worm, Lord William Knight, you're having a kid already? The glittering gold words lingered for a long time before fading, forming a long queue on the 1,000-mile voice transmission channel. Impatient players started gossiping on the World channel. World, James Dawson, rich folks, ready to splash the cash. Just the baby-making quest item alone is worth more than RMB, plus the daily formula costs. Only a lord could afford it. James Dawson's tone dripped with envy. World, blade of soft fragrance, oh my, don't you know William Knight refined that 170,000 worth of demonic energy into a heavenly phoenix for his lovely wife? A true lord, never short on cash. World, one-legged sap, who is Lord William Knight? He's the Golden Goose of Victory Company, the developers of new martial arts. 1 million players, you know. What's the fuss? Just a kid. A drop in the ocean compared to his wealth. Emily Willow was stunned. Her little Yun, so rich. Over 1 million. Spent on a game. Emily Willow felt faint. Her family's entire fortune wouldn't reach 1 million, and she'd spent that much on a game. Real or fake? Could she be some tycoon's heiress? Whisper. Emily Willow, little Yun, are you loaded? William Knight, still carrying her, raced across the desert, ignoring the idle gossip on the World channel and his darling's curiosity. He urged his horse on, returning to Desert City. Lord William Knight brought her to the refining elder, stopped, and set her down. Private chat, William Knight, I've spent less than 10,000 on this game. Private chat, Emily Willow, huh. Huh. Though Emily Willow was still a newbie, with many quests incomplete, she understood the basics. Chloe Harper's top player in the Heavenly Sword server, Heaven's Unrivaled, her guild leader, had spent nearly 600,000 to achieve his fame. Yet, his fame was only 6/10 of Lord William Knight's. With her fame so high, it must have cost at least 1 million, right? Private chat, William Knight, at first, it cost a bit, but after leveling up the equipment and selling it, it's like an investment. When I started, I invested like they said on the World channel, almost 200,000. But after about 10 equipment fusions, each time I got a divine martial and demonic weapon. One weapon sells for 10,000, and after refining, it's 10,000 more, totaling 20,000. Sometimes, regular refining yields max level stats, selling for a few 100,000. All in all, it all adds up, and I earned back everything. Emily Willow actually wanted to add, earned back everything, but what about that earth-shattering aura of a gaming god? That godlike aura of little Yun could be considered the profit she gained from Victory Company. In the long run, who knows, maybe there's even more profit to be made. Private chat, Emily Willow, how much for your equipment? I don't have any money, nothing to pay with. Private chat, William Knight, what's mine is yours. Alright, Emily Willow disregarded that. William Knight, the gaming god, seemed eager to show off his skills. He casually bought max-level weapons from the NPC shop and refined them. Emily Willow didn't understand the battle situation, only seeing William Knight maintaining his silent sky-gazing demeanor. This aura could only be described as, "Oh Earth, you can't distinguish good from bad. Oh Heaven, you confuse the wicked and the virtuous, what a waste of being heaven." After repeatedly expressing such sentiments about William Knight, the gaming god finally stopped moving. Private chat, William Knight, thunder god's bone. She said this, and Emily Willow felt like she'd been kicked. The reason was, the previous description was wrong. It should have been, "O earth, you distinguish good and bad so clearly. O heaven, your eyes are bright as stars, worthy of being heaven." Ah! Emily Willow was impressed. Such a refining expert was truly awesome. The World Channel was still buzzing about William Knight's godlike feats. For example, last time the company rewarded reputation, the player with the highest reputation on the server received a divine martial weapon. Thus, William Knight, with a reputation value of W, led by a huge margin. Admitted that she didn't know how to PK, so her skills weren't good, and her character didn't seem particularly good either. Crooked chirping, the world chat revolved around Emily Willow, the great god William Knight's girl, developing a series of messy news that made people dazed. Emily Willow propped her head with one hand, the other holding a teacup, watching them argue noisily, while the great god William Knight remained silent, standing still, as if also watching the developments on the World Channel. It went on like this until World YY cult leader, actually, Emily Willow is the great god William Knight's girlfriend IRL. Pfft. Emily Willow, having just taken a sip of tea, spat it all out. She frantically wiped the water on her keyboard and monitor. The world chat once again began analyzing the latest news. World, Pink Maiden, oh my, this reason is quite believable. World, Pirate Captain, heh, indeed, the great god once said he wouldn't marry a wife, now he's suddenly married someone new, and even equipped her with all the best gear. The answer must be this. Therefore, the world chat echoed, as if it were the truth. The world chat immediately buzzed with comments, and moreover, everyone agreed, continuously spamming the nodding emoticon. Emily Willow hurriedly wiped her keyboard. When she looked up, the World Channel was filled with nothing but nodding emoticons. Local, William Knight, I've discovered that everyone is very clever now. Emily Willow naturally didn't understand William Knight's cryptic words, and could only casually agree. Local, Emily Willow, indeed, very clever. At that time, Emily Willow didn't notice that William Knight spoke on the local channel, or in other words, everyone in the desert could see it, while normally, the careful and seemingly quiet great god William Knight always used the whisper channel. The players leveling in the desert were all max level or over level 90, as soon as the great god William Knight said these words, Emily Willow also replied. Thus, the truth emerged. World, Pink Maiden, oh my, after confirmation from the parties involved, it really is the truth. World, Pirate Captain, heh, finally know the truth. Emily Willow was really puzzled, because she didn't understand what the world chat was talking about. She only saw the beginning and the end, missing the events in between. The great god William Knight suddenly invited her to live together. She followed the great god's will and clicked agree. As a result, the two embraced. The great god William Knight then chose intimate embrace, and the two of them were intimate in public. Emily Willow remained calm. She was used to little Yun Yun's random displays of affection. Private chat, William Knight, let you see pet. Thus, William Knight brought Emily Willow to the warehouse, set her down, and, presumably after retrieving the pet, invited her to live together. Emily Willow reflexively clicked agree, then followed the great god William Knight to the Temple of Tranquility, a boss raid location. However, it wasn't time yet, the boss hadn't appeared, so no one was there. Emily Willow wondered, why so secretive? Could there be something shady going on? The result after the pet appeared, Emily Willow fell. An extremely provocative bunny girl appeared, busty, with a curvy backside, wearing a black bikini, standing next to William Knight, complete with bunny ears on her head. Private chat, William Knight, medicine fairy sister and rabbit bro hybrid into sexy goddess, very like. Excuse me, if you see the rabbit goddess, who would still say the great god William Knight doesn't like women? However, Emily Willow knew the truth. She knew her great god William Knight, her little Yun Yun, was a woman, so the fusion into a sexy goddess was mainly wish fulfillment, her body is probably an airport, just wanting to be a pretty face. Chapter 11. This is Warm Breeze. Emily Willow had recently been tilting her head in boredom, craning her neck, resting her chin on her hand, staring blankly out the window. Aside from that killer visa, could there be any other reason? Emily Willow was indeed a bookworm. In the GRE, out of dozens of test takers in the whole school, only she and that other bookworm, Daniel Carter, passed. This made upperclassman Thomas Adams, who failed, quite depressed, and Emily Willow was equally glum. She really didn't like that clueless upperclassman. Ever since the two of them passed the exam, Professor Smith began imparting a lifetime's worth of knowledge to them. The two became a pair, practically inseparable. Unfortunately, Emily Willow was used to chatting with friends like Chloe Harper and Thomas Adams, but ever since she started studying with upperclassman Daniel Carter, she hadn't spoken a word all day, and her breath was starting to get funky. After a day of training, she would return to her room and collapse into sleep, rarely opening her mouth, only to brush her teeth, one might say. Therefore, Emily Willow felt down. Whenever she studied with upperclassman Daniel Carter, she would habitually tilt her head and gaze out the window. Emily Willow, this villa is quite something. Daniel Carter suddenly handed her a magazine and spoke. Emily Willow glanced indifferently, saw the green seaside villa, and her face paled slightly. Daniel Carter clearly saw Emily Willow's unease, but unusually, he continued, this villa was designed by Ethan Carter, Assistant Professor Carter. Emily Willow had been waiting for a chance to speak, but at this moment, she remained silent, staring at the villa as if she wouldn't stop until she'd stared a hole through it. Unexpectedly, Daniel Carter was talkative today, even adding, I remember in the Academy's design competition, your entry was somewhat similar to this villa, but later, for some reason, you withdrew from the competition, and the work disappeared. Emily Willow shot Daniel Carter a look. Did someone wind you up today? Why are you so chatty? I'm just curious. Daniel Carter's expression was arrogant and nonchalant, his eyes deep and dark. Emily Willow's anger flared for some unknown reason, her nostrils flaring. You're meddling in other people's business. Emily Willow jumped up. They were in the quiet library, where even a pin dropping could be heard. With Emily Willow standing up like that, naturally a few heads turned to look. Emily Willow, thin-skinned, sat back down, fuming. Daniel Carter, watching Emily Willow's angry appearance, smirked, the corners of his mouth lifting in a smile. Then he returned to his usual melancholy bookworm demeanor, continuing to flip through the new Creation magazine. Emily Willow glanced at the villa, remembering something from the past. That villa, the original draft, was actually drawn by Emily Willow. But at the time, she had no basic knowledge of architecture, relying solely on her imagination. Back then, Ethan Carter was her teaching assistant, guiding her. The drafts she drew would naturally be shown to her TA first for his feedback. At that time, the only seniors Emily Willow knew were Ethan Carter and Emma Johnson, 2 years ahead of her. That day, Emily Willow couldn't find Ethan Carter, calls went unanswered, and the deadline for submitting the assignment was tight. Not wanting to delay any further, she had no choice but to seek out Emma Johnson, handing over the design and asking her to pass it on to Ethan Carter. Truthfully, Emily Willow didn't want to approach Emma Johnson. They didn't get along, mainly due to the rumors surrounding Emily Willow and T.A. Carter. The professors often praised them as a golden couple, but in the eyes of their classmates, they were colluding in mischief. Emma Johnson had openly pursued Ethan Carter and deeply resented a rival like Emily Willow, often treating her coldly. Emily Willow, being sensible, always tried to avoid Emma Johnson. But this time, the situation forced her hand. She had no other choice but to knock on Senior Johnson's dorm room door. When the door opened, Emma Johnson was pulling out tissues, crying. Emily Willow looked questioningly at Emma Johnson's roommates. The girl closest to her whispered, Emma Johnson got rejected again. Emily Willow understood. Emma Johnson was truly relentless. Ethan Carter's eyes must be set on the heavens, otherwise, why would he constantly reject Emma Johnson? Emma Johnson kicked the tissue box, her eyes brimming with tears as she looked at Emily Willow. "What are you doing here? To mock me?" Emily Willow shrugged, her lively eyes darting around. She said with a giggle, "Senior, I have a favor to ask." "What is it?" Emily Willow handed the design to Emma Johnson. "Could you please pass this on to Senior Carter for me and ask for his feedback?" "Strange, why don't you give it to him yourself?" Emily Willow sighed, her expression helpless. "I can't find him." "Oh." Emma Johnson looked at her suspiciously. Emily Willow continued, "I thought the person closest to Senior Carter is you, Senior Johnson. If even you don't know, I really don't know who else is closer to him." Hearing this, Emma Johnson blushed, looking pleased. She took the design from Emily Willow and declared magnanimously, "You can go back. I'll take care of it." "Thank you, Senior." Emily Willow bowed her head and hurried out. Patting a horse's ass is like sticking it in the chrysanthemum, chuckling and poking. Emily Willow comfortably returned to her dorm, peacefully reading. Back then, as a freshman, even without her mother's prodding, Emily Willow had already formed the habit of reading textbooks to gain knowledge whenever free. To be honest, Emily Willow really was a bit of a bookworm. Straight face. 3 days after Emily Willow submitted the design to Senior Sister Ding, she still hadn't heard from Ethan Carter. Feeling strange, Emily Willow called him. "Yeah." Ethan Carter answered the phone gloomily. "My design, what do you think?" Emily Willow hurriedly asked. "What design?" "Huh. I asked Emma Johnson to give it to you, it's the design I'm submitting for the competition." There was a moment of silence on the other end, as if he was busy with something. After a long while, Ethan Carter replied, "Yeah, I'm looking at it. I'll give you a convincing answer tomorrow." However, Ethan Carter was the type of guy who prioritized beauty over his disciples. His so-called tomorrow involved suddenly asking Emma Johnson for leave and going on a trip abroad. 3 days later, a school-shaking romance unfolded. Emma Johnson, after pursuing Ethan Carter for so many years, finally achieved success, becoming his girlfriend. And Emily Willow's design became a tragedy. Ethan Carter called Emily Willow, "I've looked at the design, it's not good enough. Redo it." Just like that, Emily Willow's painstaking work was completely discarded. Emily Willow didn't say anything, only choked up a little as she told Ethan Carter, "That villa is suitable for the seaside, the window direction is designed to catch the Hawaiian sea breeze. The villa is called Warm Breeze. The other end of the phone fell silent again, finally managing to utter 2 words, "Emily." "Yes. Give me the design, I really like it. If you like it, keep it." Emily Willow seemed nonchalant. In Emily Willow's world, academically, she always excelled, her assignments always earning A's. This was the first time someone told her her work wasn't good enough, hence the choked-up voice, hence why she didn't care about the design anymore. "Don't cry, Emily. I'll treat this design well." "Okay." Emily Willow felt indifferent and agreed. Since it was rejected, she didn't bother caring about it. Unexpectedly, years later, her villa design clearly appeared in real life, published in numerous magazines, with Ethan Carter listed as the design owner. Emily Willow thought, Ethan Carter really took advantage of her. But Ethan Carter had also given her many advantages. For example, when he was still her teaching assistant, under the guise of being his disciple, she often ate his food, him supporting her for a year. However, as Ethan Carter put it, having already raised one thunder, I don't mind raising another. Emily Willow was angered by his words and ignored him, resulting in Ethan Carter saying, "Even you ignore me, am I not even worth a dog's attention?" In response to Ethan Carter's harsh words, Emily Willow decided to remain silent. She truly wasn't a match for him. After hearing Professor Smith's work arrangements, Emily Willow prepared to leave. Unexpectedly, just as she stepped out of the design room, the bookworm Daniel Carter suddenly yelled, startling Emily Willow so much she nearly jumped. Emily Willow! Emily Willow spun around in alarm, only to see Daniel Carter approaching, his expression unchanged. Your work isn't finished. Where are you going? Emily Willow looked at him doubtfully. I clearly finished it. Professor Smith asked for a completed Heavenly Garden model, not just the blueprints. Emily Willow glanced at her watch. It was evening, and building the model would obviously take her past 9:30 p.m. The Design Institute closed at 9:30. If she wasn't finished by then, what could she do? But she couldn't leave Professor Smith's assignment incomplete either. After a moment of thought, Emily Willow decided to return to the institute and finish the model. If she worked quickly, she might make it in time. Back at the Design Institute, just as Emily Willow was about to start working, she suddenly remembered something she had almost forgotten. It was about the couple who had accepted the childbearing quest. Today was the first day she and the gaming god, William Knight, were supposed to farm heartbreak points. They were supposed to meet at the Heavenly Pond at 9:30 p.m. to find the Jade Rabbit descending from the moon and turn in the quest. But now, time was running out. Thinking this, Emily Willow hurriedly called Chloe Harper and asked her to log into her account. She had already stood up the gaming god once, it would be incredibly embarrassing to do it again. Actually, this was the first time Emily Willow realized that the bookworm, Daniel Carter, wasn't as cold as she thought. At least he hadn't just left her with the unfinished work, he'd come after her. And at least he wasn't leaving now, but staying to help her finish. Engrossed in their work, they both lost track of time. The tragic outcome arrived. At 9:45 p.m., the downstairs doors were locked. In other words, a man and a woman were trapped together in a room, on a long, quiet night, under a rather inappropriate moon. Emily Willow immediately panicked. Stay the night, Daniel Carter said to Emily Willow, completely unfazed. Emily Willow felt like the sky was falling. She blinked her large, innocent eyes and called Chloe Harper. Chloe immediately responded, "Whoa, that gaming god is really smooth. I always thought William Knight was aloof, but he's unexpectedly thoughtful. Chloe, little bone flower, I've realized that the gaming god, William Knight, isn't like a girl. Plus, I have a feeling he's especially nice to you. It feels like he has feelings for you. I guarantee you, he's a guy." Chloe Harper completely ignored Emily Willow's distress. "Chloe, I told him you were busy and that I was logging in for you. He seemed really concerned about you, like he has a crush on you. I'm telling you, he's a guy." Chloe Harper continued, oblivious to Emily Willow. "Looks like I won't be getting back to my warm bed tonight. I'm stuck at the Design Institute with Daniel Carter. The downstairs doors are locked, and we can't get out." This time, it was Chloe Harper's turn to be speechless. Chapter 12, A dark and windy night. Emily Willow and Daniel Carter sat in the Design Institute's main hall. Daniel Carter was pushing tables together to create a larger surface to sleep on. He seemed remarkably calm, but Emily Willow was anything but. She sat anxiously, watching him work. Glancing at her phone, she didn't dare call anyone else. Since they were stuck, more people knowing would only damage her reputation further. Besides, the only person who could help her was the professor, and unfortunately, his phone was off. Talk about adding insult to injury. Daniel Carter pushed all the tables together, creating a space equivalent to 2 large beds. With blankets and pillows, it would genuinely be a bed. He turned to Emily Willow, "Going to sleep? You go ahead and sleep first." Emily Willow simply smiled, her expression slightly weary. Daniel Carter shrugged, "I'm not going to eat you." Emily Willow immediately rolled her eyes, "If you could eat me, that would truly be a miracle." So, Daniel Carter climbed onto the table and lay down. Emily Willow sighed, sniffing slightly. If she lost her virginity like this, it would be truly tragic. When she looked up at Daniel Carter, he was smiling at her, as if she were something precious lost and found. Emily Willow frowned. What are you looking at? I suddenly remembered something Master said. I forgot to mention, Daniel Carter's master is Ethan Carter. Back then, both Emily Willow and Daniel Carter were supposed to become Ethan Carter's apprentices, the first-generation disciples. Later, Emily Willow betrayed her master, mainly because she clearly felt Ethan Carter's oppressive force towards her. Although their master-disciple relationship lasted only 3 days, it was enough for Emily Willow to feel that Ethan Carter's character was somewhat questionable, taking pleasure in the suffering of others. But this foolish Daniel Carter has always diligently followed Ethan Carter's teachings, usually not saying a word, quiet as the air, let alone being talkative. But today, Emily Willow felt that Daniel Carter had suddenly done a complete 180, becoming particularly talkative. Master said, Emily is actually really adorable. Emily Willow was speechless. She was adorable. Why did she feel these words weren't spoken by the malicious Ethan Carter? I've only just fully realized those words. Pitiful, with no lover. Daniel Carter chuckled, truly a pitiful person. Emily Willow was furious, jumping to her feet and glaring at him. This bookworm had read quite a few books and learned quite a bit of lip service. It was truly outrageous. Daniel Carter laughed, but seeing Emily Willow's anger, he suppressed his laughter and asked, "Don't you think about Master?" Emily Willow didn't answer, looking at him with disdain. This time, Daniel Carter didn't laugh, but continued to ask, "Weren't you even a little suspicious when Master disappeared?" Actually, Emily Willow had been curious, suspicious, and had even inquired, but the result was always 0. Over time, she had gradually let the matter fade. Seeing Emily Willow's calm expression, neither crying nor laughing, but with a look of understanding everything, Daniel Carter said, "Do you know why I was able to get a visa? Wasn't it because you passed the qualifying exam? But my family's circumstances don't allow for studying abroad." Daniel Carter chuckled softly, as if he couldn't help but feel a little resentful towards his family. Emily Willow also sensed the helplessness in his voice, her eyes drifting towards the ceiling. In her memory, there was once a boy with the same eyes and expression. That person was Ethan Carter. 2 days before Ethan Carter disappeared, he had invited her to play basketball. Emily Willow sat on the bench at the basketball court, watching him play with intense focus. Then, drenched in sweat, he lay on the court and spoke, his voice neither too soft nor too loud, but just enough for Emily Willow to hear. Every family has its own difficulties. At that time, Ethan Carter spoke, his eyes full of helplessness, also seemingly as bewildered as Daniel Carter was now, giving Emily Willow an illusion. Lately, it seemed she often thought of Ethan Carter. What was going on? Emily Willow, feeling melancholic, glanced towards Daniel Carter, seeing that he had turned over, his back facing her as he slept. Emily Willow yawned, feeling a wave of drowsiness wash over her. She found a spot beside the table and lay down, ready to sleep. But alas, right at that moment, her phone rang. "Mom, someone's looking for you." "Oh dear. Guess who it is, Mom?" "You little rascal." After the ringtone played for a while, Emily Willow answered the phone. Professor Smith's voice came from the other end. "Where are you right now?" Emily Willow finally saw the light, overjoyed to the point of tears. She sobbed, "Professor, you are the light of my life, you are the light bulb, my one and only idol." "Indeed." "Wait." The professor immediately hung up. Emily Willow was stunned. She hadn't even said anything. Why did the professor hang up so quickly? Just as Emily Willow was about to call back, she heard the sound of the door opening downstairs, the jingle of keys echoing in the quiet night. Emily Willow immediately stood up, rushed to Daniel Carter's side, and tugged at his arm. It's over, something's happening downstairs, what do we do?" Daniel Carter groggily opened his eyes, his gaze filled with disdain. He turned his head and continued to sleep. You go see what's going on, then ask if we need to prove our innocence by jumping off the building together, then we'll talk. Emily Willow gritted her teeth in frustration. It was hard to believe that in just a few years, Daniel Carter, once a bookworm confined to his own little corner, had learned half of Ethan Carter's caustic wit. What are you two doing? Emily Willow, startled, looked towards the professor, and saw him dressed in a clean suit, looking at them in surprise. Emily Willow and Daniel Carter's current position was with the man lying in front of the woman, and under the bright white light, it looked like a man waiting for a doctor to prepare for surgery. Emily Willow sniffled, just about to walk over, when Professor Smith suddenly answered his phone. It was the first time she had seen Professor Smith so casual and approachable. Yeah, he's all right. Emily Willow looked curiously at Professor Smith, while Daniel Carter sat up and said with a teasing smile, "Guess who's calling?" Emily Willow rolled her eyes and ignored him. Daniel Carter stopped joking and sat there, waiting for Professor Smith to finish his call. Want to chat with Emily? Professor Smith suddenly asked, momentarily stunning Emily Willow, who was standing beside him. She heard Professor Smith say, "Wait a moment," then walked towards her, winking with a playful smile and mouthing exaggeratedly, "Answer the phone." Emily Willow hesitantly took the phone and said, "Hello." There was a slight hesitation on the other end, then a voice finally spoke, "Emily." Emily Willow froze, her heart pounding like a loud explosion, as if something buried deep within her had suddenly surfaced. Emily Willow had never imagined that the caller would be Ethan Carter. It was completely unexpected. She couldn't help but bite her lip, "Senior Carter." The other end was silent, then after a long moment, a voice spoke, "How have you been?" "Very well," Emily Willow replied casually. "That's good." Ethan Carter didn't say anything more, then suddenly said wearily, "It's good that everyone is well." He paused. "It's probably very late where you are. You should go to bed." Okay, Ethan Carter had been missing for years, and now he suddenly reappeared. Emily Willow felt like she had a fishbone stuck in her throat, unable to speak. Their first conversation, just like that, was over. Emily Willow handed the phone back to Professor Smith. He said with a touch of exasperation, "You two really are worrisome." Emily Willow was surprised. "Why would you worry about us?" "One blockhead." He pointed at Emily Willow, then pointed at the ceiling. "And the other one, a masochist." "Huh?" Emily Willow looked at Professor Smith, completely bewildered. How was she a blockhead? And what did Ethan Carter do to be considered a masochist? Professor Smith glanced at Emily Willow, then looked at Daniel Carter behind her. "And you're just a schadenfreude." Unexpectedly, Daniel Carter cracked a smile. Emily Willow felt completely disoriented. In her impression, Professor Smith was a very serious person, but now he was like a lovable old man. Daniel Carter was a goofball, but now he was smiling brightly. And Ethan Carter, why did he seem so much gentler, no longer speaking with his usual harshness? Confused, hazy, a spiral appeared in Emily Willow's eyes, spinning and spinning. She felt dizzy. Back in her dorm room, Chloe Harper was sitting at her computer playing New Martial Arts World. Emily Willow asked, "Did you help me grind for the Heartbreak Cave?" "The god wouldn't let me. He said having a baby is a matter for the couple and can't be done by others. The fertilized egg wouldn't be the same." Not the legitimate child, Chloe Harper didn't turn around, staring at her computer screen as she spoke calmly. But Emily Willow suddenly felt a pang of sympathy for the god, William Knight. These must have been the things William Knight had gone through at that time. Emily Willow logged in, and standing right next to her was the god, William Knight. This time, he wasn't wearing white or his commander's uniform, but an incredibly elegant, dark blue count's outfit. He looked absolutely stunning. Stunning, a quiet, dignified beauty. Before Emily Willow could finish admiring him, a prompt appeared on her screen, asking if she wanted to trade with William Knight. Emily Willow accepted, and William Knight traded her a female outfit. Emily Willow was momentarily stunned. Emily Willow put it on and suddenly felt light and airy. The female outfit was very Lolita-esque, giving her a different look. It lacked the heroic air of the military uniform, but added a touch of girlish softness. Emily Willow didn't know why William Knight suddenly wanted her to change outfits. He suddenly approached, and they stood face to face. Emily Willow still didn't know what he was up to. Then, William Knight suddenly floated up into the air, slowly drifting forward. Emily Willow was shocked, staring at him in near fright. What was this? It reminded her of a vampire hanging in mid-air. Another prompt appeared on the screen: do you want to depend on each other with William Knight? Emily Willow accepted, and the result. Emily Willow blinked, finding herself suddenly scooped up by the great William Knight, but not in the usual way. This time, the position was utterly bizarre. Emily Willow was sprawled horizontally in front of William Knight's horse, one hand raised just enough to touch the reins, mirroring William Knight's own hand on the reins, creating the illusion of a tender hand-holding moment. Then, William Knight abruptly dismounted, leading to a truly eye-popping result. Emily Willow began spinning in mid-air, her movement stiff and robotic, as if bound by invisible strings. Emily Willow's eyes widened. What in the world was going on? Emily Willow broke out in a sweat. Her character continued to twirl uncontrollably in the air, like a leaf caught in a whirlwind, spinning and spinning. Emily Willow couldn't help but feel dizzy and disoriented. There was simply nothing she could do. William Knight might have been in control, but Emily Willow, watching her own avatar flailing helplessly, felt a headache coming on. Emily Willow's face went blank, but for some reason, she actually blushed. Chapter 13, The Crazy Dragon Islands. Revered Phoenix Lady Emily Willow, practically dizzy from the spinning, watched her character twirling in mid-air, a mixture of amusement and exasperation washing over her. Resigned, she took the initiative and sent a "lean on each other" request to William Knight. Sure, grinning ing, after William Knight accepted, a hilarious scene unfolded. According to the mechanics of new martial arts world, lean on each other involves the male character embracing the female, followed by a dramatic, romantic kiss. William Knight and Emily Willow were suspended in mid-air, a short distance apart. William Knight had exploited this specific coordinate glitch to mess with Emily Willow. While he knew how to resolve the glitch, he had no idea how bizarre it could get. The screen displayed a truly outlandish sight: a dignified, 7-foot-tall man, clad in noble count's attire, was being held in the arms of the petite, femininely dressed Emily Willow. The image of this female powerhouse cradling the male count was utterly surreal, bordering on the absurd. Emily Willow was completely floored by the system's twisted glitch. The more Emily Willow looked, the funnier it became, and a mischievous glint sparked in her eyes. And so, Emily Willow, with the great William Knight nestled in her arms like a little bird, ran towards the most crowded area, which, naturally, was their usual haunt, the desert village. William Knight, seemingly unfazed by his current predicament, remained comfortably cradled in Emily Willow's embrace. This was an unimaginable bug, naturally seen for the first time. So, after Emily Willow embraced the handsome man and strolled around the desert, standing at the warehouse, without canceling their intimate actions, left a kiss, right an embrace, the world instantly became restless. The world teased and started to get noisy, while the two main characters were still deeply in love, forgetting everything. Even the great god William Knight lost his usual composure, like a little daughter-in-law, letting Emily Willow kiss him again and again. The great god William Knight was completely defeated by Emily Willow, extremely helpless, and had to type out a sentence. The great god William Knight didn't continue the next sentence, only letting Emily Willow think about what it meant. However, Emily Willow's head seemed to have been hit, and she threw out another bombshell. The great god William Knight decided not to explain. He just suddenly left Emily Willow's embrace, got on his horse, and invited her to live together. It seemed that the great god William Knight had completely given up on Emily Willow. The great god William Knight brought Emily Willow to the capital city to find the Prime Minister and accept the Dragon and Phoenix match quest. This was the first quest to gain affection points. It mainly relied on the two people's mutual understanding to reach an affection value, testing their compatibility by answering the same questions. Emily Willow thought to herself, they'd known each other for just over a month at most, with no real understanding of each other, how could they be compatible? However, Emily Willow didn't need such affection points. Question 1. What is a carpenter's square? Peanuts, rice, carpenter's square. Emily Willow sneered, such a simple question. Directly chose. Question 2. What do you usually do at night? Procrastinate, read porn, drink soy milk. This problem. Emily Willow pondered, using her extraordinarily astute logical thinking to question herself. From a biological perspective, during the long, quiet nights, men's desires seem to be high, so it could be that. But then, that only applies to men, so disregard it. As for drinking soy milk. Everyone knows, at her school, 80% of people drink a certain kind of soy milk, so choose soy milk. But, it's also only within a small range, the probability isn't high, so she chose procrastination again. Question 3. What do normal people not read? Porn, textbooks, braille books, porn, erotic books. Based on the previous question, choosing one, Emily Willow felt that normal people don't read porn, so she chose procrastination again. After answering the 3 questions, the first 2 answers were the same for both of them. For the third question, the great god William Knight chose braille books. Because 2 of their answers were the same, the points doubled, and the experience and affection values also doubled. But when the great god William Knight saw Emily Willow's answer to the third question, he felt some pain. Emily Willow couldn't help but shamefully admit, aside from textbooks, she hadn't read any other books. She also couldn't help but shamefully admit, her mother said, boys who read porn are precocious. Even more shamefully, she couldn't help but wonder if the great god William Knight was precocious. Emily Willow wanted to say, the great god William Knight wasn't precocious, but fundamentally a pervert. She didn't know why, but Emily Willow imagined William Knight's appearance. A scruffy, bearded face with a smirking expression and flaring nostrils, like a human trafficker, immediately appeared in her mind. Emily Willow immediately shuddered, trying to dismiss what she had imagined. Clearly, Little Cloud was a girl, how could she have imagined an old man? But Chloe Harper said he could be a man, so for the first time, Emily Willow directly confronted this issue. So, in Emily Willow's mind, the great god William Knight's appearance overlapped with that of the despicable old man. Emily Willow's hands trembled as she typed, she didn't know why, but she suddenly felt a little excited. The great god was a man. And a mighty, bearded old man at that. So the despicable old man in Emily Willow's mind lost the beard around his chin, and gained some blonde hair on top of his head. So the blonde guy in Emily Willow's mind lost his blonde hair, gained a pair of large glasses on his nose, and was drooling while reading porn. After asking this, Emily Willow herself choked, staring blankly. After their marriage, the god William Knight had been constantly intimate with her, and he'd told her he'd read erotic literature since he was 7, leading Emily Willow to form a certain image of him. A small, bespectacled boy, secretly drooling over porn while hiding from his teacher. The topic of William Knight's manhood ended with Emily Willow speechless. She truly couldn't counter the god William Knight's sharp words. A son with such venomous words reminded Emily Willow of that lustful Ethan Carter. Through answering questions, the two gained quite a bit of intimacy. The next intimacy-gaining quest seemed to be hide-and-seek with your partner. It seemed to require many participants, and William Knight also expressed his desire to introduce Emily Willow to some of his friends. Thus, tomorrow was the day to meet the crew. Emily Willow turned off her computer and burrowed under her covers. A few seconds later, Chloe Harper, on the opposite bed, suddenly flipped her desk over and stood up. Emily Willow asked, "What's wrong, Chloe?" Chloe Harper, with a tragic expression, said, "I was suddenly forcibly logged out by the GM, and now my account is locked when I try to log back in." Ah. Why? I used a flying cheat today and got caught. Flying cheat, again. Emily Willow couldn't help but recall that the god William Knight had also used a flying cheat just a while ago, and they even bragged about the bug. Would their accounts also be locked? Emily Willow suddenly felt a little worried for the god William Knight. She suddenly realized that in this game, the only person she could rely on was the god William Knight. Chapter 14, 7 months pregnant Emily Willow had been very busy lately. Since passing the GRE, she'd been busy getting back to work at the U.S. Embassy in China. Her visa approval was just a matter of time. Fortunately, Emily Willow was optimistic. Not going abroad wasn't a big deal, it was just to prove herself. Her professor, Smith, had been constantly nagging lately, mainly because Ethan Carter was about to return to the country. As his favorite student, Smith's joy was immeasurable. Emily Willow wondered what her first words should be when she saw her old teacher again. "Hi, hello. Long time no see. Wow, you've gained weight. Wow, you've gotten more handsome." The more Emily Willow thought, the less she could decide, and eventually, she lost her enthusiasm and put the matter aside. By the time she logged back into the game, about a week had passed. Emily Willow, just logging into the game, saw the title, Leader of the Number 1 Force, above her head. Not only was she startled, but she also immediately received a message. It was from her rival, no less. Emily Willow was taken aback. Heartthrob points. What did that even mean? Was it some kind of points for having a baby? Then Emily Willow remembered something. Last weekend, she'd logged in briefly, and William Knight had mentioned taking her to meet his friends. She'd stood him up. It wasn't that Emily Willow didn't have time to log in. The main reason was her recent lack of interest in the game. She'd play a bit, but it wasn't a big deal if she didn't. Secondly, Chloe Harper's account had been suspended for a week, so she couldn't log in and kept pestering Emily Willow, leading her to neglect the game. Now, a week later, Emily Willow was confused. Farming heartthrob points together. Wasn't that something only married couples did? Emily Willow was stunned. A pang of sadness struck her chest. It wasn't that she didn't want to farm heartthrob points with Isabella Grace, but the fact that William Knight trusted Isabella Grace enough to let her log into his account suggested a close relationship, just like everyone in the server was saying. William Knight's account was worth a fortune. If Isabella Grace was a scammer, wouldn't he be screwed? Who would be foolish enough to take such a risk? If William Knight was comfortable handing over his account to Isabella Grace, he must trust her completely. So, Emily Willow was in a dilemma. A moment later, William Knight's character logged in and stood beside Emily Willow, then invited her to become soulbound. Emily Willow accepted, and their characters embraced, then set off to complete the Heartthrob Point quest. Emily Willow was startled. Going back home. Suddenly, her feminine intuition kicked in, sensing something was off. Isabella Grace seemed to know a lot about William Knight, even his real-life affairs. Emily Willow was going with the flow, not even sure why she was continuing the charade. They arrived at the special map for having children, South Sea Island. Emily Willow checked her quest list and found the childbearing quest. The objective, kill beautiful chest. Ah. Chests can be beautiful. Isabella Grace positioned the character on the suspension bridge, then cancelled the soulbound status and flew off, standing motionless on the other side. Emily Willow was puzzled. Why didn't she just ride her mount across? Not only that, why fly instead of walking? Confused, Emily Willow clicked her mouse, attempting to walk across. The result was tragic. As soon as she reached the edge of the bridge, she plummeted down, and then Emily Willow was taken directly to a dark room within the cave. And just as the system announced, the world restarted. Thus, the truth was revealed. Emily Willow's face was streaked with tears. It wasn't that she was an idiot, but that she simply didn't know. No one had told her about this. This whole game was truly perverse, to have such a retarded trap. However, even if Emily Willow had known about this trap, she still would have fallen for it. Because she didn't know how to use Qigong to fly. Just as Emily Willow was panicking, her hero appeared. Judging by this expression, Lord William Knight already knew. It seems Lord William Knight understood Emily Willow very well. Then, after a while, the William Knight account logged out, and shortly after, logged back in. Emily Willow originally intended to send an emoticon to see if it was really him, but before she could send it, another announcement appeared on the World Channel. Lord William Knight was also foolishly following along. Sure enough, the world started discussing it again. Emily Willow was inside, and William Knight also came down, and had even pressed close to her. For some reason, this time, seeing William Knight after so long, Emily Willow felt nothing. Moreover, fueled by the World Channel's gossip, she felt even more that they had something going on. William Knight invited Emily Willow to depend on each other, but Emily Willow refused for the first time. Emily Willow deliberately changed the subject, not wanting to discuss why she was feeling off, and refused his embrace. Emily Willow glanced at her and William Knight's heartbeat percentage, 10%. Emily Willow remembered clearly, a week ago, that afternoon they'd fought together to get the heartbeat percentage to 10%. So, did he and Isabella Grace get the other 10%? Emily Willow felt increasingly numb. So, William Knight invited her to team up again. This time, Emily Willow didn't refuse. She understood, this wasn't the time to be capricious. Thus, the two of them mounted William Knight's Monoceros and charged towards the cave exit. Emily Willow got a real eye-opener regarding these tough bosses. The bosses hit them with all sorts of status effects, root, sleep, or even preventing the use of health potions, putting their lives in danger. If it weren't for William Knight and Emily Willow's top-tier equipment, allowing them to hold on for a while, they'd probably be dead. After overcoming numerous obstacles and finally seeing the light at the cave exit, Emily Willow's heart filled with joy. Thinking they were about to escape, she didn't expect a super boss to suddenly appear right at the entrance. Nice chest. Honestly, those were some nice chests indeed. Before their eyes appeared a demoness several times larger than them, with a fiery figure, flaming red hair, and the most eye-catching feature, a two-piece bikini. Truly alluring, beautiful breasts. Emily Willow moved her mouse over the boss. The health bar displayed a W, indicating a health pool several times larger than William Knight's, which was around 10,000. How long would this fight take? She saw William Knight shield her. Nice chest landed a blow on him, instantly taking away, nearly 1,000 HP, good heavens. Emily Willow thought, having a baby wasn't something she needed to do her best for, it clearly depended entirely on him. Thus began a great battle concerning the baby's gender. Emily Willow, clueless, followed William Knight's instructions, pressing keys on the horizontal bar to buff him and keys on the vertical bar to debuff Nice Chest. Several times, William Knight nearly died, but because Emily Willow managed to land a timely root or sleep on Nice Chest, he survived. This was the epitome of teamwork, tireless cooperation. Although the fight took nearly an hour, the baby was the most important thing. Ah, having a son was truly hard work. So that's it. Unconsciously, Emily Willow, you're already 7 months pregnant. Chapter 15, The Wicked Thunder God Lacks a Wife. Recently, New Martial World launched a new event, and this activity truly showcases the utter trashiness of Shengli Company. Only VIP players can participate. This so-called VIP status requires players to have topped up a total of 100,000 renminbi since the creation of their account to enjoy VIP treatment. Reaching 100,000 renminbi to enjoy VIP customer treatment. But the rewards for this event are truly impressive. This time, there's no need for further top-ups. The prize is the best jewelry set in the new map's activities. This jewelry set is far more valuable than the current best godly attribute jewelry set, and it can be combined with any equipment and accessory attributes. The company also stated that this jewelry is exclusive to this event and won't be released again. On the surface, this event shows Sheng Li Company's generosity, but in reality, it's just a business tactic. Such top-tier equipment, how could it be so easy to obtain? The first prerequisite is to have an account with over 100,000 renminbi topped up. How many people would be cleaned out by that? If a player truly wants this equipment, or if they're just a few thousand or a couple of 10,000 short, they'll definitely top up until they reach 100,000 to participate. So, what's the difference between the money spent and the event reward? Furthermore, this map is unique to the game, and no one knows how dangerous it is. Such good jewelry, could it really be that easy to get? Given Sheng Li Company's trashy track record, it's impossible. Sheng Li is a business, they rely on the game to make money. If the map were easily conquered, how would they profit? More importantly, each VIP player can only challenge this map once. Dream on. How vicious is that? As soon as this event was announced, new Martial World players cursed Sheng Li for being unbearably greedy, only caring about money. Actually, Chloe Harper put it well, anyone with a clear mind can see this is a pay-to-win game. Money is king. If Sheng Li dares to run this event, they know there will be participants. The wealthy won't bother complaining on the forums, they'll just quietly participate. Only the players without money will be red-eyed and ranting. But what good is complaining? Sheng Li will continue to make money as usual, so it's better to save your breath. Either keep playing honestly or ditch your account and leave. Don't bother with the drama. Emily Willow felt Chloe Harper's words were profound, as if Chloe Harper was this kind of person herself. Just spend a little money, be satisfied, and let this event blow away with the wind and clouds. However, Chloe Harper kept muttering about how good the jewelry was and how powerful it would make someone. Emily Willow didn't understand equipment attributes or anything like that. She was more than satisfied with her current gear. William Knight had crafted the best healer equipment in the Mystic Heaven server, and within the region, her PvP ranking had unknowingly surpassed Isabella Grace, reaching 3rd place overall and 1st among healers. Is there anything more you desire? You've already reached the peak of satisfaction. Ah, Emily Willow, just logging into the game, stared at the screen and yelled. Chloe Harper, playing beside her, glanced over, what's all the commotion about? My Yuanbao balance has so many zeros at the end. Emily Willow counted, speechless. How did she suddenly have so much money? In the world of new martial arts, 1 Yuanbao equals 1 RMB, 100,000 Yuanbao is 100,000 renminbi. Chloe Harper was also startled, coming over to look at Emily Willow's screen, her lips twitching. Did your computer get hacked? No way. Emily Willow glanced at her. Why would hackers target my worthless computer? Then why do you have it and I don't? Chloe Harper looked up to the heavens and wailed, her envy palpable. Save it, when our servers merge, you gotta help your sister out with gear upgrades. Emily Willow's jaw dropped. Suddenly, a private message popped up on the screen. Emily Willow and Chloe Harper exchanged glances, both stunned. Chloe Harper erupted in a torrent of envious frustration. Damn it, your hubby is loaded. Dropping 100,000 Yuanbao just for an event. Unbelievable. This was a rare outburst from Chloe Harper, and Emily Willow could only manage. This dude must be rolling in dough, huh? He's a legend in new martial arts. There are 3 versions of his story. One says he lives in Canada, his dad's a Chinese immigrant who owns a chain of Chinese restaurants spanning the Atlantic. Another says he's a Massachusetts Institute of Technology grad, won a gold medal in an architecture competition, prize money enough to build a house. And then there's the one that says he's actually over 60, playing with his retirement savings, not actually that rich. Chloe Harper continued her exposition, and Emily Willow listened intently. Suddenly, Chloe Harper squinted at Emily Willow, muttering suspiciously, "Regardless, he's a big shot. What does he see in you? Why is he so good to you?" Emily Willow had pondered this question from the beginning and even asked William Knight himself. He'd just sent a smiley face and said it was because she was his wife. Now, Emily Willow wondered why she'd let him off with such a flimsy lie. She wasn't actually his wife. Emily Willow nervously typed the message, unsure of his response. Her heart pounded slightly, and she wondered why she was so anxious. A long time passed without a reply. Emily Willow bit her lip, waiting. Emily Willow, sweating, read this answer and coughed up 3 liters of blood, figuratively. Chloe Harper, seeing this answer, not only twitched her lips but also rolled her eyes. She sneered, "I think the third version seems accurate, an old man over 50. Emily Willow stared at the 3 words, "lack a wife," on the screen, suddenly remembering a past memory, about her and Ethan Carter. Emily Willow had almost forgotten that memory. It was the time of the long-term competition near the end of the first year of university, the first competition in her university career. Emily Willow still seemed to value it. Although she was sure she could win third prize, if she wanted to become Professor Smith's student, she had to win first prize. Entering the review phase, Emily Willow only had 2 locations, constantly running back and forth between the library and the dormitory. Emily Willow had a lot of flaws, but she had one advantage that not everyone could achieve: her ears could temporarily turn off. No matter how noisy it was outside, she could completely immerse herself in her own world. This was cultivated from Emily Willow's many years of student life, being able to single-mindedly focus on one thing and truly dedicate herself to it. During that time, Emily Willow could be said to be dazed in the library, her meals consisting of bread and mineral water. Ethan Carter was Emily Willow's teaching assistant. He couldn't find her for the first few days, but on the 6th day, which was Saturday, Ethan Carter found her in the library. He sat across from Emily Willow, casually finding a book to read, not disturbing her. Until Emily Willow put down her pen and prepared to bite into her bread, Ethan Carter coughed, wanting to get Emily Willow's attention. Sure enough, Emily Willow answered and looked up blankly at Ethan Carter across from her. Ethan Carter looked at her and chuckled, flipped open a notebook, wrote something on it, and handed it to Emily Willow. Emily Willow glanced at it. It said, "Toilet Girl, free tonight." Emily Willow looked suspiciously at Ethan Carter, not knowing what he was up to. After thinking for a moment, she replied, "Reading, not free." Ethan Carter looked at the 4 heartless words on the notebook, not angry but smiling, and continued writing, "Together." Emily Willow ignored him and continued reading. Actually, she was still a little puzzled. Before, Ethan Carter never actively sought her out, only she went to him. Today, he suddenly sought her out, and she didn't know why. However, puzzled as she wasn't in the habit of meddling in other people's business. The university library was very advanced, using a fully electronic control system with electronic cards for entry. There weren't many people reading on Saturday, and even fewer in the evening. Before 8 o'clock, there were almost no people left. Ethan Carter watched as the last student finally left, then looked at Emily Willow, seeing her taking notes. He tentatively asked, "Everyone's gone?" Emily Willow lowered her head and hummed in agreement, "It's okay, I told the manager I'd lock up." Ethan Carter, with a helpless expression, continued to wait for her. The large library seemed very quiet, as if even the sound of heartbeats could be clearly heard. The sound of Emily Willow's pen scratching against the paper became the only sound in the entire library. Suddenly, all the lights went out, plunging the brightly lit library into complete darkness. Both of them froze in place. What happened? Emily Willow, suddenly unable to see a thing, her 5 fingers enveloped by the darkness, felt a pang of panic. Ethan Carter looked around, unable to find a single glimmer of light. He realized for the first time that the school library was a completely enclosed structure. He took out his mobile phone to use as a light, but just as he lit it and placed it under his chin, Emily Willow shrieked. "What's wrong? You look just like a ghost. Don't use that light." Ethan Carter, having no other choice, turned off his phone. "Where's your phone?" "I didn't bring it." Ethan Carter sighed in frustration. "I'll go see what happened. I don't know why this is happening." "Wait." Emily Willow anxiously patted the table, afraid he would leave. "I'll go with you." As she spoke, the timid girl's hand tightly gripped Ethan Carter's clothes. "If you want to hold on, don't grab my clothes. It's uncomfortable." Emily Willow adjusted her grip to his arm. "You're pulling my arm like that, I feel unbalanced." Emily Willow directly took his hand. This time, he didn't say a word and led her downstairs. Ethan Carter didn't frequent the library and wasn't familiar with the layout, so he could only ask Emily Willow. However, Emily Willow, currently trailing behind him, was directionally challenged and couldn't give clear directions. The only reason she was able to find her way in here was purely out of habit. Ethan Carter had to feel his way forward, slowly pulling Emily Willow along, until she tripped over something. Ethan Carter tried to catch her, but instead bumped into a bookshelf. Due to the strong impact, the bookshelf began to wobble. As Ethan Carter tried to steady it, one couldn't do two things at once. Emily Willow fell, the bookshelf toppled, and a pile of books tumbled down. Ethan Carter immediately embraced Emily Willow, letting the books fall on him. "Lei Feng," Emily Willow intended to thank him, but Ethan Carter suddenly leaned over her. Finally saying, "I'm a bad Lei Feng. Do you know how bad a man can be when he's missing his wife? A bad Lei Feng could be." Unfortunately, Emily Willow didn't let Ethan Carter continue, instead forcefully pushing him away and then hopping in place. "I need to pee." Ethan Carter only felt a flock of crows fly over his head. His rising passion and feelings were long gone, just like "the spring river flows eastward." This is the last line of a poem by Liu, the last ruler of the southern Tang dynasty, meaning the spring river flows eastward. This line, the last in a poem by Liu, the final ruler of the 5 dynasties and 10 kingdoms period, means, the spring river flows eastward. However, Ethan Carter was still annoyed. He sat down on the floor, watching Emily Willow hop left and right, completely unwilling to help. Emily Willow's expression was extremely distorted, her legs clamped tightly together, her eyes pleading as if to say she was about to burst. Teaching assistant Carter, quickly find a way out. The library is a closed structure, my phone has no signal, I can't do anything. Actually, all of this was bullshit. He clearly had a full signal. He was acting this way simply because Emily Willow had forcefully pushed him away, preventing him from making his move. This line, the last in a poem by Liu, the final ruler of the 5 dynasties and 10 kingdoms period, means, the spring river flows eastward. Emily Willow paced back and forth, a mix of emotions swirling within her, before making a snap decision. Ethan Carter chuckled, "Emily, have you noticed how rarely we're ever in the same place together?" She ignored Ethan Carter's casual banter, simply offering a perfunctory, "Yeah." "And every single time, it's when you're looking for a convenient moment, meaning to take care of that." Ethan Carter chuckled, his laughter genuine yet restrained. This time, Emily Willow finally snapped. Firstly, needing to pee was a normal human function, what was so funny? Secondly, he found amusement in her distress. She gritted her teeth, determined to ignore him, and plopped down on the ground, refusing to budge. "What's wrong? Mad?" "No, reducing activity, preventing accelerated kidney function." Ethan Carter remained silent. Straight face. Silence hung between them for a while, until Ethan Carter heard a girl's soft sobs. Startled, he looked up at Emily Willow, "Why are you crying?" Wah, I'm about to pee my pants. I can't hold it anymore. Emily Willow wailed, feeling her lifelong reputation about to be ruined. She was mortified. She'd lived for almost 5 years and had never been reduced to such a state. It was no wonder she was crying. Ethan Carter, again silent, pulled out his phone and called the uncle at the front desk, asking him to open the door. As soon as he hung up, Emily Willow asked, "Didn't you say there was no signal?" "You scared the signal back into existence," Ethan Carter retorted. TCH. Emily Willow turned her head away, ignoring him. A moment later, the door opened, and the darkened library was flooded with light. Emily Willow sprang to her feet and made a beeline for the restroom. The uncle at the front desk didn't even get a good look at who was inside before a female student zipped past him like a bolt of lightning. Ethan Carter strolled down the stairs, flashing a charming smile at the uncle at the front desk. "Xiao Feng, that was your girlfriend just now, right? Look at her, so shy and adorable. Even though you're both university students now, you still act like you're not used to each other." The uncle at the front desk laughed heartily, while Ethan Carter's lips twitched uncontrollably. He mumbled a few words in response and left. Used to each other? He was being quite the gentleman, though he was tempted to be a villain next time. Even though they were only an online couple, Emily Willow still felt a pang of reluctance. Besides, she didn't have anything pressing going on, so she might as well participate. However, after joining, she realized this event wasn't going to be easy. Firstly, the new boss posed a significant challenge to her precise controls and techniques. Secondly, her and William Knight's in-game childbirth quest was at 70%, which, according to the game mechanics, imposed a debuff on the female character, increasing skill cooldown times, basically making her a sitting duck. Thirdly, the university was undergoing renovations, resulting in frequent power outages. She dreaded the thought of being in the middle of the map when the power went out. So many factors made Emily Willow feel awkward, so she had to honestly tell Lord William Knight. Emily Willow, stunned after her confusion, remained silent. A moment later, Lord William Knight sent his account information. Emily Willow saved it in Notepad, feeling very satisfied. Lord William Knight actually gave her his account. Wasn't this a sign of trust in her performance? William Knight, after a few brief words, logged out. Emily Willow then logged into William Knight's account. The Lord's account truly had an aura. Not to mention his overflowing coffers, just his equipment alone consisted of 3 sets, God set, Demon set, and a server-unique light set. William Knight rarely wore the light set, mainly because it was overwhelmingly powerful. Its attributes were 5 times that of the other 2 sets, and its light effects were quite impressive. Not only did his entire body emit golden light, but occasionally, a Buddhist attribute would appear. In its normal state, the character Van Swastika would be inscribed on his forehead, looking quite handsome and refined. The Buddhist attribute shortened skill cooldown times. Emily Willow curiously opened Lord William Knight's spouse, marriage, relationship status. The list contained only one name, Emily Willow. Emily Willow was secretly delighted. It seemed he had given her his first. She felt truly fulfilled, perhaps due to a girl's vanity. Filled with curiosity, she idly opened his mentor-disciple relationships. This. Emily Willow discovered something she was completely unaware of. In the mentor-disciple list, William Knight had 2 previous masters. One was named Damien Heaven, his first master, the relationship ending a year ago. But his second master was unexpectedly Isabella Grace. The relationship started on the same day the relationship with his first master ended. And it lasted for half a year. In other words, their mentor-disciple relationship lasted for over 6 months. Emily Willow then opened his friends list, and this startled her even more. Lord William Knight's friends list contained only 3 names, Damien Heaven, Isabella Grace, and Emily Willow. It was hard to imagine that a lord's friends list only had 3 names. Who was this Damien Heaven, capable of being William Knight's master. Emily Willow curiously searched for him in the PK rankings and suddenly discovered that Damien Heaven wasn't among the top 40, but ranked 57th. Could it be that William Knight had a master a year ago, then upon meeting a top-tier lord like Isabella Grace, he abandoned his previous master? That didn't seem right. She remembered Chloe Harper mentioning that ever since the server opened a month after its launch, Lord William Knight had always topped the rankings. This server had been running for over 3 years. Emily Willow stared at the somber name, Heaven's Punishment. Who was this person, really? At this moment, the guild had members online. Pfft. Emily Willow almost spat out her drink. That was disgustingly cheesy, wasn't it? Wouldn't this tarnish the guild's image? Didn't William Knight care? Emily Willow clicked open the guild news, suddenly discovering earth-shattering information. This guild's founder, Heaven's Punishment. Current guild leader, Emily Willow. The guild leader position was William Knight's doing, but this founder's name, it looked awfully familiar. Heaven's Punishment again? It was all very strange. Emily Willow's mind buzzed with questions, then she noticed the current officer ranks. Pecking Bird and Isabella Grace were vice leaders. Usually, only elders could hold those positions, right? So, Pecking Bird must have some history here. Thus, Emily Willow initiated a private conversation with the powerful woman she'd never really gotten along with. Emily Willow felt embarrassed, inexplicably caught in the crossfire. Suddenly, a wave of melancholy washed over Emily Willow. Why did William Knight marry her? Just to avoid the in-game gossip? But to pretend to the whole world they were upholding their engagement, what was the point of it all? Emily Willow had a knot in her heart, and she needed it untangled. The only person who could do that was William Knight. Chapter 17, Turns out, premature births do happen. Emily Willow was filled with suspicion, but with no outlet to vent, she could only stew in her frustration. The pent-up feelings festered all day, turning into a foul mood. Chloe Harper, full of questions, asked, "What's wrong with you?" Emily Willow mumbled, "The great William Knight has a secret he can't tell anyone." Huh? What? Chloe Harper's eyes widened immediately, her curiosity piqued. Emily Willow didn't dare jump to conclusions, so she just mumbled, "I think that's probably the case." Huh? Chloe Harper was momentarily confused. "I'll tell you tonight." For the first time, Emily Willow eagerly turned on her computer and logged into the game. Checking her friends list, she saw William Knight's name lit up and immediately sent him a message. After typing this, Emily Willow felt uneasy. Was she being too nosy by asking about this? It was just a game, why did she care so much? Emily Willow didn't know how to respond. Was this jealousy? She didn't even know herself. After a moment of confusion, she nodded to herself. This probably wasn't jealousy. Surely she had the right to know about her husband's past, right? But being so forward felt wrong. Emily Willow reconsidered. Maybe she should just drop it. After sending those 2 words, Emily Willow was at a loss for words. She had meant to type, "forget it," but a typo had turned it into, "sour." So that's how it was. Both Heaven's Punishment and William Knight were his accounts. Heaven's Punishment was like his second account. To level up, he had to establish a master-apprentice relationship. Because of his friend's request, he gave Heaven's Punishment to his friend. Isabella Grace misunderstood, thinking it was William Knight, and then the friend and Isabella Grace had a sweet relationship. After it was exposed, they naturally divorced. But Isabella Grace wanted to level up quickly, and William Knight, feeling guilty, established a master-apprentice relationship to bring her into the max-level maps to level up. That's how it happened, of course, that's how it happened. Emily Willow almost spat blood, thinking about the frustration she felt all day. She felt truly frustrated. William Knight, that pure great God, how could he possibly do such an absurd thing? Suddenly, Emily Willow looked at the screen. William Knight appeared beside her, inviting her to depend on each other. Emily Willow clicked agree. The two embraced. William Knight went into another frenzy. Emily Willow was stunned. She didn't want to take care of a child. Later William Knight would have to be the babysitter. Emily Willow thought, indeed, it's been 7 months, just like usual, no need for such a long time. After that, the great god William Knight rode his horse, carrying Emily Willow to finish the remaining affection percentage. As the saying goes, pregnancy doesn't necessarily have to be full term, that's the unpredictable nature of things, not a fixed number. This game, unexpectedly, doesn't follow common sense, it even has premature births. Unpredictable nature of things, nothing strange under the sun. The great god William Knight was on his way, carrying Emily Willow to gain affection, when a line of text suddenly appeared on the screen. Emily Willow was still stunned and a system message suddenly appeared in the World Channel. Weight refers to kilograms according to modern Chinese measurement units. After that, the real thing happened. They automatically received a quest, saying to go to Bai Xiaoxing's lake to name the baby. The great god William Knight urgently threw a special teleportation talisman on the ground. In the blink of an eye, the afternoon sun was setting in the west, leaving only Emily Willow who had just given birth, the west wind blowing fiercely cold. She felt truly desolate. How could they treat a woman in confinement like this? She teleported over, only to see the great god William Knight pacing back and forth. Seeing Emily Willow arrive, he stopped. Emily Willow was embarrassed, and before she could refuse the name, she saw another system message. A baby suddenly appeared beside them, wearing a small red bellyband, round and smooth, following behind them. A little meatball, oh, a little meatball. Fertilized eggs, incubated eggs. This was the first time Emily Willow had ever heard of such a thing. The world chat exploded, mostly with congratulations for William Knight having a child. Most people encouraged him to have another. William Knight remained silent. Emily Willow really wanted to chime in, but she didn't have a loudspeaker in her inventory. Suddenly remembering her myriad of items, she went to the in-game store and bought some loudspeakers. The world chat instantly blew up with comments. Emily Willow was startled. She just wanted to express her feelings, not cause such a frenzy. Emily Willow, even the great William Knight joined in. The World Channel erupted again, everyone talking about their deep love, choosing to be lovebirds rather than immortals. These comments gave Emily Willow a headache. Emily Willow actually blushed. Heaven knows why. William Knight's sudden, off-topic message surprised Emily Willow. Emily Willow didn't understand why the great William Knight was being so cryptic. Would he not be able to play the game after returning home? Come to think of it, she'd never asked which city in China he lived in. She only knew he was in Boston, in the US. Emily Willow was stunned. What a coincidence. She was also in City A. She suddenly felt a little nervous, unsure if she should tell him. But what if she did? Would they meet up for a meal? Emily Willow had never considered that before. She never connected the internet with reality. Huh? Emily Willow was taken aback. She hadn't even said anything, and he already wanted to meet? What? A university? Isn't that her university? Could he also be a student there? Emily Willow was completely dumbfounded. The world was truly full of strange coincidences, especially this year. Emily Willow turned off her computer, preparing for bed, and just as she lifted her blanket, Chloe Harper, who had also just turned off her computer, said to her, Duo, the school forum is buzzing, our top student, the magnificent Ethan Carter, is coming back next week. Emily Willow was stunned. Oh. Next week too? Why? Is someone else coming back next week? Emily Willow remained silent, a wave of turmoil in her heart. Both of them were in Boston, and both were returning next week. Wasn't this too much of a coincidence? Although she told herself that Ethan Carter couldn't possibly be the great god William Knight, how could there be such a coincidence? It was absurd. Emily Willow fell onto her bed and slept. Chapter 18, Kid, come back quickly. Emily Willow had recently been criticized by Professor Smith. The reason was her recent lack of focus. She was always distracted during research and discussions. Professor Smith initially tolerated it, thinking it was temporary, but after several consecutive days of this behavior, he finally cracked the whip. After class, Emily Willow was in a daze. Daniel Carter glanced at her and asked, "Comrade Hua, you seem distracted lately. Are you worried about the research?" "Huh. Comrade Daniel Carter is actually concerned about me." Emily Willow found it strange that Daniel Carter suddenly inquired about her. Upon hearing this, Daniel Carter's ears turned red, and he stammered, "We're all classmates. What's wrong with showing some concern? You don't usually seem to care." Emily Willow really wanted to reply like that, but she thought that saying so would definitely be a huge blow to him. She could only chuckle and say, "If you're so concerned, buy me an ice cream sundae." Daniel Carter was taken aback. He looked at the chilly, windy weather and the passers-by all bundled up in fur coats. Was this kind of weather suitable for ice cream? He glanced at Emily Willow, not daring to look too long, and immediately lowered his head. "If you're not afraid of the cold, I'll treat you." "Ice cream sundaes taste best in winter," Emily Willow said with a giggle. Daniel Carter's head practically burrowed into his coat. Outside the gates of University A were numerous small eateries, but the monopoly on cold drinks belonged to Tea Workshop on the corner of East Street. It was a fairly large beverage shop, occupying about 200 square meters, and the owner, a plump middle-aged woman, was always enthusiastic towards her customers. This place was mainly a gathering spot for dating couples. At university, dating spots were either beverage shops, cafes, or hotels. Emily Willow rarely came here for food or drinks. Firstly, she was lazy to go out, and secondly, she had no one to go with. She originally thought Daniel Carter was the same, but as soon as they entered, the owner enthusiastically yelled, "Xiao Quan, why are you here so early today?" Why did that sound like a madam at a brothel? Daniel Carter chuckled and said, "I'm treating a classmate to ice cream today." The owner shifted her gaze from Daniel Carter to Emily Willow beside him. She was first stunned, then smiled. "Look at this sweet young lady. Is she the one Xiao Quan is pursuing?" Daniel Carter froze for a moment, then hurriedly waved his hand, "Boss, it's not like that. Little girl, what are you drinking? Let me get it for you." Emily Willow thought for a moment, "Papaya ice cream. Eating papaya, good, papaya is good for the complexion." Emily Willow laughed and nodded. "It can also enhance the bust, you should eat more too." Emily Willow continued to laugh and nod, "I eat it regularly, always this kind, just for that reason." Daniel Carter stood dumbfounded at the side like a fossil. The two sat by the window. As Emily Willow ate, she asked, "How's your visa application going?" Daniel Carter sullenly ate his strawberry ice cream. He paused, then hesitantly said, "Although the expenses are shared, I need 30,000 in my bank account, and my family hasn't responded yet." Emily Willow clearly hadn't anticipated this. In her perception, Daniel Carter was a country bumpkin, eccentric, indifferent to others, always buried in his own affairs. Back then, Emily Willow and the others thought he was surprisingly odd, not very likable. Now she suddenly realized that the reason for his personality was, firstly, his inner insecurity, and secondly, his strong self-esteem. The disparity in wealth made him reluctant to make friends. Actually, he was a very good person. "So, are you planning to give up this opportunity?" Emily Willow couldn't help but wonder. Daniel Carter said, "We'll see, I'm not in a hurry." "What about you? Have you done your visa yet?" "Me?" Emily Willow took a few more bites. "My visa isn't done either. My dad doesn't want me to study abroad. He wants me to get married right after graduation, no need to be so ambitious. Daniel Carter smiled, so, you're really going to marry Senior Carter? Pfft. Emily Willow spat out the ice cream in her mouth. What did marriage have to do with Ethan Carter? What connection was there? It was absurd. What's wrong? No, classmate Daniel Carter, why are you lumping me together with teaching assistant Carter? Are you mistaken? Huh? Didn't you two kiss once? I always thought you were a couple. Daniel Carter seemed quite surprised as well. But his words almost made Emily Willow's jaw drop. She asked in shock, I kissed teaching assistant Carter. That was utter nonsense. Emily Willow was as pure as a flower. Let alone kissing, she had never even hugged a man. Even if she had kissed someone, how could she not remember? Ridiculous. I saw it with my own eyes. It was 2 summers ago. Do you remember there was a basketball game coming up, and the basketball team had to practice late every night? Emily Willow certainly remembered that period. It was a miserable time for her. She could have gone back to the dormitory and enjoyed the air conditioning, but that hateful Ethan Carter, seeking personal revenge, detained her with the excuse of failing the academic assessment, requiring a retake. As if that wasn't bad enough, he deliberately chose to schedule her retake during his training sessions, so she had to struggle in the cold wind, serving him tea and water until he was finished. That year, she was bitten by mosquitoes all over her body, almost to the point of bursting blood vessels, 48 bites. I clearly remember that day, right after a heavy downpour, I saw you two kissing at the pavilion by the lake on campus. Emily Willow's jaw almost dropped. If she remembered correctly, that day, after waiting for Ethan Carter's training to finish, they had planned. Emily Willow, anxious and afraid, entered Professor Smith's office. Slightly bowed, she hid by the door, stealthily opening it a crack to peek inside. She saw Professor Smith talking to a man whose back was turned to her. He wore a large black shirt, bronze boots, and his light smoky blonde hair was styled fashionably. Emily Willow pondered, this couldn't possibly be Ethan Carter, could it? In Emily Willow's impression, Ethan Carter was rather unkempt, always in sportswear or comfortable bright clothing, with relaxed hair, unlike this fashionable man before her. Growing increasingly uneasy, Emily Willow heard Professor Smith suddenly say, "Why hasn't Emily arrived yet? Probably in the toilet. She's likely capable of that." Emily Willow's initial uncertainty solidified. Who else besides that venomous teaching assistant Carter would say such a thing about her? Feeling flustered, she sniffled and knocked. "Come in," Professor Smith replied, his face beaming as he assumed it was Emily Willow. "Ah, Emily. Wait just a moment, I suddenly need to use the restroom." "Make yourself comfortable, please." Emily Willow was taken aback. She'd hesitated outside for so long without him needing the restroom, yet the moment she entered, he did. Annoyed, she watched Professor Smith leave with a smile. The room became much quieter, an atmosphere Emily Willow found slightly unsettling. She walked over and sat beside Ethan Carter, feigning surprise. Teaching assistant Carter. Ethan Carter glanced at her, his expression unchanged as he observed her feigned surprise. "Oh my, I almost didn't recognize you. You've become so much more handsome." Everyone knew Ethan Carter, the chosen teaching assistant of the professors, had always been handsome. Emily Willow's words were clearly meaningless. "You've also gained weight," he said, narrowing his eyes at her. Ignoring the concealing clothes that hid her figure, just a glance at her thighs told him that, as Professor Smith had said, she'd indeed gained weight. Emily Willow coughed lightly, embarrassed, and chuckled. "You shouldn't be so direct." As she spoke, a strange feeling arose within her, unnoticed by anyone. "Do you miss me?" Ethan Carter suddenly asked, seemingly out of the blue. Without hesitation, Emily Willow nodded repeatedly. Ethan Carter seemed pleased. He pulled a small box, easily held in his palm, from his pocket and tossed it to her. "For you." Filled with curiosity, Emily Willow opened it. Inside was a ring with a pale pink diamond. She recognized it. Ethan Carter had once worn it on his ring finger. She had jokingly asked, "Are you married?" Ethan Carter had practically rolled his eyes at her then. Now, she carefully examined the ring. "Oh. The pattern on this ring is quite unique. Are those oracle bone script characters? And why is this diamond a pale pink?" Oracle bone script, an ancient Chinese script, is considered the earliest form of Chinese characters and a variant thereof. "You're quite the busybody." Ethan Carter didn't want to answer her question at the time. Now he was giving her another identical ring. What was he up to? Emily Willow glanced at him, suspicion filling her eyes. Ethan Carter said casually, "Weren't you muttering about how special this ring was? Weren't you always wanting one?" "That's true, but why did receiving the ring make her feel so uneasy?" "I took your blueprint and claimed it as my own. This is considered payment." Ethan Carter casually picked up the teacup on the table and took a few sips. Emily Willow froze, her gaze fixed on the ring. The more she thought about it, the more she felt she couldn't accept it. She had to return it to him. "Then give me something else. I can't accept this." Ethan Carter narrowed his eyes, took the ring box directly, grabbed Emily Willow's hand, and slipped the ring onto her ring finger. "So long-winded, just like an old aunt. My dad said you can't wear a ring on your ring finger if you're not married." Ethan Carter released her hand and looked at the ring on his own ring finger. "Did your dad also say that if you sleep with a man, you'll get pregnant?" Emily Willow blinked, nodded, then realized it was just a trick to fool her. She hurriedly tried to explain, but Ethan Carter cut her off. "So you still think that sleeping with a man will get you pregnant? Those are two different things. Similarly, does me wearing a ring mean I'm married?" Emily Willow shook her head repeatedly. "So, isn't it the same?" "Nonsense." Emily Willow was immediately disheartened. Although she really wanted to argue that the two situations weren't similar at all, she couldn't find another reason. She could only silently shed tears, acknowledging her own inadequacy. After 2 years, she still wasn't Ethan Carter's match, always the rabbit firmly held in his grasp. Speaking of which, Professor Smith seemed to be taking an awfully long time in the restroom. Emily Willow said impatiently, "Assistant Carter, go check on Professor Smith. He hasn't fallen into the toilet, has he? Maybe, like you, he forgot to bring toilet paper and can't get out." Emily Willow blushed instantly, remembering that time she was stuck on the toilet. She coughed softly. "Go help him. Haven't called me Erickson in years." Ethan Carter lifted one leg and smoothly crossed it over the other. "Heard Emily's been quite the popular lady lately. Going on dates with a lot of boys?" "Who said that?" It was only two. Only two. Ethan Carter narrowed his eyes again. Want to go on a date sometime? Not free today. I want to play games. After numerous broken promises, Emily Willow finally discovered her conscience and understood the importance of keeping her word. What game, Emily? Want to play together? It's New Martial World. Emily Willow beamed. I can carry you. Ethan Carter maintained his smile. What a coincidence. I play that game too. Oh. Which server are you on? Ethan Carter deliberately drew out the suspense, closing his eyes in thought, tilting his head as if struggling to remember. I can't quite recall. Emily Willow remained silent when Ethan Carter suddenly spoke. It seems to start with Tien. Tien at the beginning. This game, besides the Mystic Heaven server, is the Celestial Blade server. Either they're on the same server, or Ethan Carter and Chloe Harper are on the same server, but, aren't the Mystic Heaven and Celestial Blade servers merging in half a month? In other words, one day in the future, she, Emily Willow, and this teaching assistant Carter will be on the same server. That's terrifying. Even more terrifying is that she's married. If teaching assistant Carter finds out. For some reason, a sense of unease and fear crept into Emily Willow's heart, a feeling like she had betrayed someone. What kind of feeling was this? Ethan Carter, relishing the uncontrolled emotions on Emily Willow's face, beamed, how about I ditch my current account and come play with you? Emily Willow's eyes widened. There's no need. The game is merging the Mystic Heaven and Celestial Blade servers in half a month. I happen to be on Mystic Heaven. Is that so? I don't really remember which server I'm on. It's just that every time I play that game, I habitually choose the second server on the list. The server positions hardly ever change. The second server on the list is Mystic Heaven. Emily Willow felt as if struck by lightning. No way, the same server. Who could it be? Knowing Ethan Carter, he was very skilled, always striving for flawless perfection, and came from a wealthy family, so he would likely invest heavily. The more she thought, the more frightened she became, a conflict brewing within her. Ethan Carter definitely couldn't be her husband, William Knight. Just then, Professor Smith, who had been gone for a while, returned, still munching on a donut from the cafeteria. Are you two done chatting? Huh. Emily Willow was caught off guard. Ethan Carter suddenly stood up. Why are you eating so early? I was planning to invite you to Poseidon's palace for pastries. Professor Smith brightened at this, offering the donut to Ethan Carter. I figured you must be starving after that long flight. Here, have this. Ethan Carter accepted the donut but didn't eat it, instead reminding Professor Smith, Emily probably needs something from you. Emily Willow suddenly remembered her purpose for being there. She quickly stood up, properly and formally, and solemnly presented her self-criticism to Professor Smith. This is my self-criticism after deep reflection. Smith chuckled. Oh, next time something like this happens, just let Ethan handle it. I guarantee it will never happen again. Emily Willow's gaze lingered meaningfully on Ethan Carter. Professor Smith grinned, nudging Ethan Carter with his elbow. See? Why not just take her home and make some babies already? Let's see what her self-criticism says first. Smith smiled, anticipating a dramatic, tearful, and nauseatingly sentimental guarantee. He glanced at the paper, his face paling, then continued reading, his face turning even whiter, then persisted, his face now ashen. At the end, there was a concluding sentence of assurance. Even if she couldn't wipe properly, she would never resort to using paper napkins. Smith, overwhelmed, leaned on Ethan Carter's shoulder, trembling. Emily, you've outdone yourself. Emily Willow smirked, a look of contrition on her face. Ethan Carter was curious. Was Smith's reaction truly as earth-shattering and tear-jerking as he'd implied? He reached for the paper, but Professor Smith clutched it to his chest, looking at him with tragic despair, shaking his head, tears welling in his eyes. "Let me see." Ethan Carter snatched it, Smith sighed. Ethan Carter looked at Emily Willow's fluent self-criticism, calmly read it all, raised his head. "Emily. Huh. It's very good that you can clearly recognize this issue." Ethan Carter actually meant it. Professor Smith's face twitched again. Emily Willow smirked, saying nothing. Ethan Carter looked at his watch, noticing it was almost 7:30, thought for a moment, remembered something else, and suddenly came up with a playful smile. "It's 7:30 already, shall we go grab some dinner?" Ethan Carter kept his gaze fixed on Emily Willow's expression, seemingly truly interested in her reaction. Emily Willow blinked, glancing at the clock on the wall. It was currently 7:30, a meal would take at least over an hour. She had promised the great god William Knight that she would go and farm equipment after 8 o'clock. If she didn't go back. "No, I want to go back and play games, farm equipment." As soon as these words were spoken, Ethan Carter's mood became exceptionally good. Smith felt puzzled, being rejected yet so happy. Could it be that after reading that crazy self-criticism, he also went crazy? The author expresses their thoughts. "At the last moment, I changed it. Oh God. Still further from the sun." On the way back, Emily Willow stared at the diamond ring on her hand. She studied the inscription carved on the ring. It was strange, she didn't understand it. Back in the dorm, Chloe Harper was playing landlord. This was really strange. Every time Chloe Harper turned on her computer, she would definitely play New Martial World. What happened today? Not playing the game, but playing this childish game instead. She looked over, goosebumps immediately rising all over her body. She saw Chloe Harper playing while chatting in the chat bar. Chloe Harper smiled foolishly. Emily Willow glanced over and casually asked, "Who is that big gray wolf?" Chloe Harper looked up at Emily Willow, then at the clock hanging on the wall. "It's already 8 o'clock, you're just getting back. Didn't you say you wanted to farm jewelry?" "I tried to get back quickly. Why aren't you playing games today?" "The big shots on our server are all farming equipment. It's really boring, so I'm playing landlord with my hubby to kill time." As soon as she finished speaking, Chloe Harper directly turned off the game, talked to John Bill on QQ, then closed her computer, moved her chair next to Emily Willow's computer desk, turned around and called out to Emily Willow, "What are you spacing out for? Hurry up and turn on your computer, don't waste time." Emily Willow nodded, turned on her computer, and sat waiting in front of it. Her hands were placed on the keyboard. Just as Chloe Harper saw them, she curiously asked, "Emily, the design of the ring on your hand is really unique. When did you buy it? How much was it?" "I don't know how much it was, teaching assistant Carter gave it to me." Chloe Harper was silent for a moment, took her hand and carefully observed the ring. "Is this just glass or is it real diamond? It's so shiny." Then she simply took off her ring, looked at the inside of the ring, and laughed strangely. "Ah, it's platinum. Looks like it's not just a few bucks." Chloe Harper suddenly burst out laughing, rubbing against Emily Willow, putting the ring back on her finger. "Say, a girl receiving a ring from a man has another layer of meaning. You're even wearing it on your left ring finger, eh? Are you two getting ready to get married?" "Nonsense." Emily Willow frowned, rubbing her chubby face. "He gave me this ring." Chloe Harper was speechless, thought for a moment, then muttered, "Looks like the proposal was successful." The computer screen lit up. Emily Willow opened the game, ignoring Chloe Harper's muttering, logged into her account, and found herself next to the character William Knight. Today, he was wearing a military uniform, his posture heroic and upright, a picture of righteousness. Damn, the military uniform really is different. Fucking gorgeous. Chloe Harper mumbled from the side. Emily Willow was currently wearing the female deputy's outfit, looking completely mismatched, more like a servant. William Knight seemed startled. Emily Willow and Chloe Harper both shuddered. I'm sweating, Emily thought. Good heavens, what's gotten into this guy? An invitation popped up on the screen. Do you want to live together with William Knight? Emily Willow clicked agree, and the two of them mounted white horses and rode out of the city. Today, William Knight seemed truly erratic, calm to outsiders, but disruptive to those close to him. Along the way, he caused constant trouble, occasionally stopping the horses to play kissing games. Chloe Harper couldn't help but protest, this guy really is something, causing such a ruckus. Emily Willow's face darkened. She muttered, is he all right? Emily Willow and Chloe Harper exchanged glances. On the other end, Professor Smith glared disapprovingly at William Knight, who was occupying his computer. I say, when did you install this game on my computer? And is that Emily Willow really Emily? Ethan Carter manipulated the keyboard with one hand and sipped his tea with the other. Yes. You're that sure? It's Emily. What if it's just someone with the same name? Wouldn't you be wasting your time and money? Professor Smith, seeing Ethan Carter's certainty, wanted to deflate his confidence. I asked her roommate, Chloe Harper. It's definitely her. Professor Smith immediately fell silent. He knew that this cobra, once he set his mind on something, wouldn't let go. If he liked something, he'd just make a few small moves. Looking at the screen, seeing the two embracing on the horse, he couldn't resist another jab at Ethan Carter. Poor you, only able to hold Emily in a game, while in reality, you haven't even held her little hand. I've kissed her, just missing one final step. Ethan Carter was fully engrossed in the game, his words unintentional, casually stating the truth. Professor Smith wanted to wipe the sweat from his brow. Whatever he said, this kid would immediately retort, not giving him any face. Emily, constantly being licked by this cobra, would be forced to bloom early. William Knight led her to the gathering place. Entry required a minimum deposit of $100,000, but there were a few familiar players, Pecking Bird, Isabella Grace, Wiggly Worm, and a few others he didn't recognize. There were only 10 people in total. But a gear farming team can only have a maximum of 6 people, and it's not easy to split more than 10 people here. Not long after, a dragon-riding character flew over, with the 2 words, Damien Heaven, above their head. Was this the account married to Isabella Grace? Emily Willow saw it for the first time. This character had the same face as William Knight usually did, wearing a black suit, along with a mage's hat, looking very much like a costume. Chloe Harper said, whose character is that? Why is there a suit all of a sudden? It also belongs to the great god William Knight. Chloe Harper went silent, continuing to look at the computer. Chloe Harper read these words and immediately flew into a rage. I despise him, daring to flirt in front of his wife. Emily, scold her. Emily Willow also didn't like it very much. After all, she was right there, such blatant flirting was really a bit too much. Emily Willow thought for a moment, not knowing how to subtly scold her. Chloe Harper, seeing that Emily Willow didn't have any reaction, hurriedly asked, what are you spacing out for? I'm thinking about how I should scold her. Just call her a hussy and say this man is yours, wouldn't that work? They're teammates, scolding like that won't do. Emily Willow thought, suddenly coming up with an idea. She clicked on the child icon on the screen, directly summoning the child. A little meatball spun around them, speech bubbles appearing. I am William Knight's child, I am Emily Willow's child. Once this procession was over, Emily Willow, feeling it was appropriate, typed a sentence. Then Emily Willow went to the great god William Knight's side and chose to depend on each other. The two embraced, and Emily Willow clicked on intimate sweetness, then kissed. The other players present didn't interrupt, remaining silent for a moment, until the two finished kissing. Chloe Harper laughed and stood up, that's really something. The resulting image was Pecking Bird and Wiggly Worm also embracing, kissing passionately. As for why William Knight wanted to log into 2 accounts, it was mainly to split into 2 gear farming teams. First, let this William Knight character go through, then William Knight would transfer the equipment from this account to the Damien Heaven account and run it again. Luckily, there were two healers, Emily Willow and Isabella Grace, who split into two teams and began. Healers are key protection targets. If they die, it's over. They can only run it once, either obtaining once-in-a-millennium equipment or losing everything. If other members die, it's no big deal, the healer can revive them. But if the healer dies, any other dead members stay dead, and the survivors lose a portion of their fighting strength. So, healers are very important, extremely important. Emily Willow, embraced by William Knight, prepared to enter the dungeon instance. William Knight led a few people into the instance first, only Wiggly Worm was still lingering, acting as if he would never return. This new instance had no maps online, no guides, completely unfamiliar. As Emily Willow entered, the surrounding light instantly changed. The originally warm colors immediately turned cold. Aside from green, there was only black, green leaves covering the stones. Upon entering, they automatically received a quest, instructing them to speak to Old Man Michael. The team, led by William Knight, remained motionless, no one dared to move. Emily Willow dismissed the child. Emily Willow was stunned. Chloe Harper explained, resistance gear is specifically for boss fights. It can nullify the boss's secondary attacks. Gear always has trade-offs, high resistance means low attack power. But then again, isn't your team's gear not that great? Your attack power is only slightly higher than the attack power of the boss's resistance gear. You actually have the highest attack in the team, but you're a healer, so you can't attack. The healer is the soul of the team, if you die, it's over. Emily Willow grimaced. If there were two healers, her burden wouldn't be so heavy, and maybe she could even become a muscular powerhouse. The group traveled to Old Man Michael, who told them about a giant bear causing havoc and kidnapping his granddaughter. If they could rescue her, he would reward them. William Knight accepted the quest, and everyone involved followed him through the icy bamboo forest to find the boss. This frosted bamboo forest is a real adventure, teeming with small fries like emerald mantises and bigger brutes like the bear hounds. They're all aggressive, chasing us down with status effect attacks. It's a real pain. William Knight, in his resistance gear, can hold his own, but I'm constantly focused on keeping him safe. It's the others lagging behind who get picked off and die repeatedly. It's tiring, not to mention the long cooldown on my soul-binding spell. Old Man Michael said this instance has to be cleared in 30 minutes. Travel time, ideally, is 10 minutes, leaving only 20 for the boss. That's brutal. Victory Company is so deceptive. Not only do the good items require a hefty upfront cost, but the entire process is pay to win. Without decent gear, you can't even get through this frosted bamboo forest, let alone face the boss. Even with William Knight tanking in top-tier gear, we're struggling. I can't imagine how anyone on other servers manages. By the time we reached the boss, 7 minutes had already elapsed, almost half our time. William Knight, fully aware of the impending doom, didn't waste a second and engaged. I deactivated our symbiotic link and positioned myself far back, ready to fulfill my healer role. He can tank, but the efficiency is abysmal. After more than 10 minutes, the boss's health bar is still above halfway. Watching the clock tick down is agonizing. Even Chloe Harper, spectating from the sidelines, is nervously clutching my sleeve, whispering, "Hurry up." I had a sudden epiphany. I summoned my child. Its defense is low, but its attack power is the combined total of mine and William Knight's. Plus, if it dies, I can just use a resurrection potion instead of my soul-binding spell. William Knight stocked up on those after the birth, for leveling the little one. Sure enough, with the added firepower of our newborn meatball, our progress accelerated significantly. How could Emily Willow be so nimble? It's because she and Chloe Harper are working together seamlessly. Chloe Harper controls with the mouse, while Emily Willow uses the keyboard, creating such a fluid combination. Chloe Harper's eyes suddenly sparkled like stars, and she said to Emily Willow, "Quickly ask, how much silver will the reward be?" Chloe, that's not right. He and I are practically one, being so formal and talking about money really hurts our feelings. Emily Willow anxiously manipulated the controls while protesting. Chloe Harper gave her a sideways glance, her eyes strange, looking at Emily Willow as if she'd seen a monster. "Oh, you're actually starting to take this husband-wife thing seriously." Emily Willow didn't say anything, focusing on finishing the task at hand first. This child provided a powerful extra boost, quickly shortening the time. The boss finally fell with only 5 minutes left. William Knight immediately scooped Emily Willow into his arms and sprinted through the icy bamboo forest. The return trip was truly harrowing, a dense throng of monsters surrounding them. The baby milk spray skill was truly spectacular. The baby jumped incredibly high, then white milk splashed everywhere like rain. Because Daniel Bryan's attack power was high, plus the additional 30% attack boost from supplementary skills, it could almost deal critical damage. The cooldown for this skill was 10 seconds, while Emily Willow's resurrection skill cooldown had increased significantly to 30 seconds. Immediately, people started dying, and Emily Willow couldn't save them. By the time they reached the quest turn-in, only Emily Willow and William Knight remained. They barely managed to complete the quest and exit the dungeon. As soon as they were out of the dungeon, William Knight urgently set Emily Willow down and rushed towards Wiggly Worm and the others, who were lying at the dungeon entrance. William Knight had entered on a white horse. Those waiting outside started to move forward. Isabella Grace resurrected the whole group. After Wiggly Worm shared the equipment, its stats were truly beyond words. William Knight had no choice but to transfer his equipment to Damien Heaven, then carry Isabella Grace inside. Before going in, he chatted privately with Emily Willow. But Emily Willow was indeed quiet. Chloe Harper, seeing Emily Willow staring at the screen, couldn't help but laugh, "Oh dear," feeling upset. "Chloe, do you remember what I said when Ethan Carter and Emma Johnson were dating, sometimes walking together?" Let me think." Chloe looked up at the sky for a moment, then said with slight uncertainty, "You said they were actually a good match." "Exactly." Emily Willow looked again at the two embracing, preparing to enter the dungeon. "Actually, Damien and Isabella Grace are also a good match." "What the heck, Emily Willow, are you just going to destroy your own morale and boost the enemies? Are you planning to queue up?" Chloe Harper jumped up, bristling with anger. Emily Willow looked like she wanted to cry. "Before, when I saw them together, I felt really uncomfortable, but I couldn't do anything. Now, seeing my in-game husband hugging another woman, I also feel really uncomfortable, but I still feel as helpless as before. Now I finally understand how I felt back then, that feeling of something that originally belonged to you being taken by someone else. Do you think my actions are considered a failure?" Chloe Harper was stunned. "Emily, you liked Ethan Carter before?" Emily Willow nodded. Chloe Harper's eyelashes fluttered. "Now you've switched your affections to your in-game husband." "No," Emily Willow's voice immediately dropped a few notches. I still like Professor Carter, it's just," Chloe Harper's eyebrows furrowed, waiting for her to continue. Emily Willow blurted out in frustration, "He doesn't feel the same way about me." "Then seduce him. See how he reacts." "Huh? How do I seduce him?" "With your charms." Chloe Harper designed 3 seduction plans for Emily Willow. In Chloe Harper's words, "I don't believe Ethan Carter can remain oblivious after these 3 plans are executed." Emily Willow looked at Chloe Harper's plan sketches, speechless and covered in goosebumps. She said, "Chloe, you made me wear a bikini to the pool. Look at this pile of flesh on me. You think I can seduce anyone with sex appeal? I think I'll only make people nauseous." Chloe Harper remained silent, accepting that Emily Willow's figure truly had no value in this regard. You told me to pretend to be drunk and call teaching assistant Carter late at night. Don't you know his phone is always off at midnight? Chloe Harper shook her head. And your third plan is even weirder. You told me to buy aphrodisiacs and drug him. Emily Willow's teeth gnashed together. She wanted to punch Chloe and send her flying. Emily Willow focused her energy, maintaining her composure to prevent an outburst. Chloe Harper whimpered, looking truly wronged. What do you know? If you don't do this, under normal circumstances, how can you possibly seduce him? Emily Willow was immediately at a loss for words. Indeed, apart from reading, she was clueless about everything else, let alone seduction. But Chloe Harper's 3 plans were truly terrible. Emily Willow, a righteous person, would absolutely not do such things. How about we check Baidu? See what it says. Chloe Harper's suggestion was worth considering. Emily Willow pondered and nodded. Emily Willow typed the 2 words seduction into the Baidu search bar, and a series of Baidu knows pages appeared. One of them was, how do I seduce the person I like? Emily Willow felt this question perfectly matched her needs, so she clicked on it. There were many replies, all sorts of them. Emily Willow began searching for the best answer. Here are 2 ways to prepare. If he likes you, seduction will be much easier, just a glance will do. If you're not sure if he likes you, but you want to keep him, it's easy. Pretend to fall into his arms, casually touch him, then act startled and flustered, lower your head, apologize in a mosquito-like voice, glance at him a few times, then lower your head and walk past him. Emily Willow slammed the keyboard. This is it. Chloe Harper muttered under her breath, this isn't seduction, it's teaching you how to cop a feel. Emily Willow quickly defended herself, it was voted the best answer. That's because it has the most words. I bet you won't find another one like this. This kind of thing is just childish. Chloe Harper pushed Emily Willow aside, took the chair in front of the computer, and typed, what is the most powerful seduction, into the Baidu search bar. It turned out someone had actually asked this question. Upon clicking, she saw 2 best answers. Personally, I think being in bed is the best way. The question asker replied, that's something everyone knows. The second answer was truly powerful. Being in bed is nothing. Vigorously rolling around in bed is what's sweet. The question asker replied, leaving bloodstains on the bed is the most powerful. Emily Willow wiped her sweat, looking at Chloe Harper in despair. Despicable. This is the truth. Chloe Harper spoke seriously, but after a moment of thought, she added, strong seduction, you definitely can't pull off, so how about we go with the pure route, based on despicableness? What do you mean? Emily Willow still felt apprehensive about this strategist, Chloe Harper. Doing shady activities under the guise of purity. Chloe Harper summarized, then whispered subtly in her ear. Emily Willow's eyes widened, a completely unwilling look on her face, her eyebrows furrowed, isn't that wrong? Isn't it good to be naked and eat tofu? Emily Willow nodded, with this method, she really was stark naked. That very day, Emily Willow called Ethan Carter and told him her intentions. Ethan Carter was stunned on the other end, Emily Willow rarely took the initiative to contact him, let alone ask for his help. He thought for a moment and replied, sure, but I don't have any swimming trunks. Can you buy me some? Emily Willow hung up the phone. Chloe Harper, who was peeling a banana, casually asked, so? He agreed. Emily Willow whimpered, but the condition is to buy him swimming trunks. Come with me to buy them. Chloe Harper's mouth twitched, speechless. Chloe Harper suggested that Emily Willow ask Ethan Carter to teach her how to swim. This swimming business, naturally, involves a relatively bare chest, direct skin-to-skin contact. According to Chloe Harper, closer skin contact naturally leads to JQ, romantic interest, and with more JQ, everything will be great. Emily Willow felt that this was a perfect match and happily nodded in agreement. Emily Willow was a landlubber, completely clueless about swimming. Having agreed to buy a swimsuit, she entered the store and, seeing a dazzling array of colorful swimsuits, froze, unsure of what to choose. If she chose a sexy two-piece, what would she do with her body? If she didn't choose a sexy one, but a conservative, tight-fitting one, her breasts, which weren't very large to begin with, would easily become flat. Choosing a cute style seemed too artificial. So Emily Willow was extremely conflicted. She didn't know what to choose. Unable to choose for herself, she decided to choose Ethan Carter's swimming trunks first. This time, since it was for someone else, she had to take a good look. Emily Willow's eyes immediately landed on the third pair of floral printed shorts to her left. Red and green, what a perfect combination. Emily Willow sought Chloe Harper's opinion. Chloe Harper, upon seeing the "love" floral shorts Emily Willow was referring to, rolled her eyes and said, "Don't you know red and green look like dog farts?" Emily Willow blinked. "I thought red and green contrast nicely, so," Chloe Harper rolled her eyes at her, "whatever you say." "Boss, I want this one." Emily Willow generously paid for the floral shorts. As for Emily Willow's swimsuit, after checking the prices, unable to afford what she liked, she bought the cheapest one. Without hesitation, Emily Willow told the owner, "Give me the cheapest women's swimsuit." After shopping, the next step in the plan commenced. When Emily Willow called, Ethan Carter was having dinner with Professor Smith. After hanging up, a subtle, almost imperceptible smile played on his lips. "I say, that's a right lecherous grin you've got there," Professor Smith said, cutting a piece of steak and popping it in his mouth. He adored Western food, especially Ethan Carter's homemade steaks. Ethan Carter dabbed his mouth elegantly with a napkin, smiling. "I've had a lot of tofu tonight. Worried about my digestion, you know." "Who asked you to be so bloody coy? Tight-fisted, too. If you're offering, offer some meat." Professor Smith chewed his steak, watching Ethan Carter grab his jacket and head for the door. Ethan Carter paused at the door, slipping on his shoes. "Emily's the one offering some, coyote," he said with a grin. Professor Smith stared, dumbfounded, as Ethan Carter left. Their rendezvous point was a mid-sized indoor pool off campus. Emily Willow had been waiting at the entrance for a while. Chloe Harper, who had accompanied her, had already left, giggling mischievously as she went. "Fancy you being on time for once," Ethan Carter said, strolling over with his hands in his pockets, a smile on his face. Emily Willow lowered her head, trying her best to appear bashful. The usual seduction protocol dictated a display of feminine demeanor. She fidgeted with the hem of her shirt, murmuring, "Well, I had a date with you. Naturally, I wanted to be early." Ethan Carter paused, momentarily breathless. "Where are my swimming trunks?" he asked, a smile returning to his face. Emily Willow quickly handed him the plastic bag, glancing at him before immediately dropping her gaze. The seduction protocol forbade direct eye contact, even a fleeting glance. So, Emily Willow flicked her eyes towards him, then up at the sky, before quickly lowering her head again. "Let's go," she mumbled. Ethan Carter opened the plastic bag and looked at the swimming trunks, his expression a mixture of confusion and dismay. Floral print was one thing, but red and green. Wouldn't wearing these be utterly mortifying? He sighed, stuffed the trunks back into the bag, and followed Emily Willow inside. He'd buy a new pair inside. "If your swimsuit is also red and green, I'll get you one too," he offered kindly. "No need. Mine is crimson. A crimson so deep, it resembled blood." Ethan Carter nodded. As they were about to head to their respective changing rooms, he suddenly stopped, calling out to Emily Willow. "Emily," he said with a smile, "you look lovely today. Truly captivating." Emily Willow opened her mouth, unsure how to respond. Wasn't she dressed normally? She'd just applied a few of Chloe Harper's seduction techniques. Was this considered a small victory in the seduction game? Wasn't it a bit too fast? Encouraged by Ethan Carter's compliment, Emily Willow felt confident that Chloe Harper's tactics would succeed. She resolved to follow the plan with even more conviction. Speaking of Emily Willow's cheap swimsuit, it truly proved the adage that you get what you pay for. It was a two-piece, with a skirted bottom. Underneath the short little skirt were bikini bottoms. The inside and outside materials are different, you only know after wearing it. So at first glance, this set isn't quite like a swimsuit, looking rather mixed up. Emily Willow went to the mirror, spun around a few times looking at herself, and couldn't help but sigh. The scar on her waist. She took a deep breath, sucked in her stomach, then gracefully twirled again, thinking it looked alright, appearing slimmer at first glance. She swaggered out, only to see that there weren't many people at the pool today. Ethan Carter was leisurely sitting on a chair, looking at her with a faint smile. Emily Willow was about to look at him as usual, grinning foolishly, when she suddenly remembered her purpose for bringing Ethan Carter to the pool. Instinctively, she lowered her head, shuffled over to him, and her voice, soft as a mosquito's buzz, rang out, "Tutor Carter, teach me how to swim." "Yeah, get in the water." Ethan Carter stood up, walked to the pool, and saw Emily Willow still standing there dumbfounded. "Come on, get in." "Oh, okay." Emily Willow happily followed him and got into the water. Ethan Carter walked alongside, took the floa tie off Emily Willow, and said to her, "You want to learn quickly, right?" Emily Willow nodded vigorously. Ethan Carter suddenly grinned, put his arms around Emily Willow's waist, and gently lifted her. The warm water, the warm embrace, and the skin-to-skin contact immediately made Emily Willow flush crimson. Ethan Carter's posture, holding Emily Willow, inevitably led to some touching. Emily Willow repeatedly recited the trick Chloe Harper had taught her, then suddenly lost her balance and fell into his arms. Emily Willow silently counted 1, 2, 3, and as his muscles tensed, Ethan Carter suddenly asked her, "Is your Aunt Flo here?" "Huh?" Emily Willow was surprised. Her Aunt Flo wasn't due for another week. Why was he asking about this out of the blue? Red. Ethan Carter pointed to the water around Emily Willow.